And it looks like we are live. Let me just get live on the Facebook here and then we will get started. Okay, I think we're good. All right, welcome everybody to the Sacred Lavisa podcast. We are have a special episode for you today. We have three fascinating and unique and individual interviews and stories of these three young women who have gone through CPS family court corruption and have had their kids taken. And we're going to start off with Jacqueline Perkins. She is our first interviewee. And why don't you go ahead and give our viewers just give them the rundown on your story. And before we get started, let me remind everybody to go and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Rumble, Facebook, and Twitch, Twitter, and a couple others. Everything's in the description. So, with that being said, why don't you go ahead and start and share your story, Jacqueline,
All
for us?
right, no doubt. Thank you so much, Stephen, for having me. So, like you said, my name is Jacqueline. I am originally from New York. I live currently in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. I have two children, ages 7 and 4. So my story all began 2017, actually October 16th, I believe. But prior to that, I am going to be quite transparent. I did have history with addiction and domestic violence. As far as you know, I am a survivor, not a victim. And the I was with my daughter's father, for about 5 years prior. So one day I woke up and I was like, a couple months before the case started in October, I was like, you know what, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of the same rut that I'm in, and with the drugs and everything. This is not me. This is not how I was brought up, and this is not how, like I said, this is not who I want to be. So we were upstate New York, where I lived current at the time, and I decided that I wanted to venture to South Carolina and, ultimately let my family take custody of my then 2.5-year old. Um, as I'm going down, driving down there, my sister in law calls me frantic and just very rude and ignorant. She was just pretty much telling me if I don't do such and such and bring my daughter back to upstate New York, where her family, my daughter's father's family has access to, she was going to call CPS. She has a friend in CPS, actually, of Queens County, New York. So I said, go ahead, do what you got to do. She's like, you're not worried? You're the one who's getting high still. I was like, no, go ahead, because I am sober at the point. I was already sober already, but I still wanted to remain sober. So that's why I was going to South Carolina. So October 16th, we stop in 4 hours away. We're still in New York. I stayed with some friends of, the family, of his family, actually. And they, like around 7 o'clock that night, there was CPS actually showed up at somebody else's door. It wasn't even my house for them to show up. They saw my daughter. They were friendly. I was very transparent with them, told them what my plans were, because this is my third run-in with CPS on, at the hands of, my in-laws calling. So I was comfortable with it, So I was like, what do I have to do? Because I'm going down south, and I guess give me your contact information. I'll let you, contact whoever when I get there. They weren't trying to hear that. Ultimately, long story short, they kept me in New York. Um, I that whole entire week, and right before they took her, I had to sign a safety plan, which I wasn't comfortable sharing at the safety conference. They were very belittling, and they were just rude, and how, people with substance abuse, you know you have a label, and you like pretty much have like a red X on your forehead, pretty much saying, this is who you are now, which is not the case.
Yeah, there's
Uh,
definitely a stigma to it. I mean, I know
exactly, that's what the
firsthand
word I was
experience.
looking for. Yes. So they like how they said in their investigative report that took me 4 years to get, after continuously asking for it, from my lawyers and the workers. They wrote the same thing that they told me 4 years ago, saying that she was well taken care of. I, physically and mentally, they can see that I was doing okay. Um, you know, uh, I had good resources, everything, the whole nine. Um, so the day before they took her, they asked me after the safety conference we had two safety conference. So after the second one, they said to go get an order of protection because they couldn't find anything to keep me in New York. They couldn't find anything to remand my child, nothing. The only thing they could have done was because her father and I would fight a lot. So that's what they were running with. So get a order of protection or we're going to take your child away. So what was I going to do? So I said, you know what, whatever. So I sat in court for, wow, like 6 to 7 hours with a toddler. And we already know how that was going to go. So I left like an hour before court closes. And I asked the clerk, I was like, listen, when are you guys going to call me? And they told me that CPS didn't give them whatever they needed to, that I would be on the calendar. So I'm sitting here waiting for no reason. Um, anyway, go home. Well, before I go home or go to my friend's house that night, um, did some errands, came back. Social worker called me, says, don't let it happen again. Just come tomorrow. We'll do what we got to do like we were supposed to do today. And we'll start this case going so we can close it quick. So I go, instead of meeting her at the court, like she told me over the phone, she told me to meet her at her office early in the morning. That morning she called me. And when I got there, they told my daughter to go to the back. Mommy has to talk to us. And more or less, they shut the doors. I couldn't get to her. And that's how they took her. They said that's an emergency order, that they have the right to do that. And that's pretty much what they were going to do. They never informed me, even up leading to it. I was danger to my daughter. Those words never came out of their mouth. If they said anything about being a danger, was her father, and I was willing to comply with the order or whatever.
Right, right. It
So,
seemed like they used that tactic a lot. Like the
yep.
fact that you were fighting and with your boyfriend or whatever, they use any old justification under the sun to come up with this fictional hypothetical scenario as to why the kids are in danger, which is a total load of crap because the bottom line is we know it's about them making money and
Oh, of
getting the money
course.
through the federal grants, into the CPS family court system. That's one aspect of it for sure. It's just like well, they're racketeering is what they're doing. They're not looking out for
Yes.
the best interest of the child. They're looking out for their own
Their
pocketbook
pocket. Yeah.
interest.
Yes, they are. And that day when they took her, I lost it. I remember seeing a sign like about assaulting a social worker, how much time you get. So I was like, let me keep that in mind and stuff. I was like, I can't go berserk. It's just gonna hurt my case. So I stayed up in New York. After that, I went crazy. I called my mom. I was like, listen, I know we're supposed to come down because she's asked me, where are you? So I was like, they took Lexi. Um, and for October to about January, I stayed in New York. Just, I was out of control, to be honest with you. My mind was just, they took my daughter. That was my reason of living. And mind you, like, I know when people hear drug addict, let me, side note, like, they hear drug addict, think already homeless, already uneducated, already, not providing for anybody. So they didn't want to hear any of that, that I had a good
Right? They
stick.
have this misconception about when they hear that word, that stigma that goes along with that. People in their mind they immediately imagine, oh, somebody who's hit rock bottom, somebody who's not looking out for anybody interest but them getting high. And it's not always the case. It's there's different levels of it, but they
It
sure as hell
doesn't
love to use that
discriminate
as
addiction.
justification for anything, don't they?
Yeah, and like I said, doesn't discriminate addiction, because all the times that I've went to rehabs or whatever, I see old people in there trying to get sober, get their life straight. But anyways, so I went down south, which I'm here now after so many attempts to keep coming down here during the 4 years. Um, well, I got sober again because of course, I relapsed. Um, no justifying it, but it is what it is. Um,
No one's perfect. We all make mistakes, as long as we learn
yes,
from them.
I definitely did learn from it. So I go back and forth to New York. I went back to New York in in March of 2018. I thought going back up there, I had to because my daughter's up there. How does that sound like you're leaving your kid when it just happened and you're in another state? And her father wasn't stable either at the time because he went on the deep end like I did.
Right.
So pretty much I started messing up because that wasn't the good environment for me. I was relatively new in my sobriety. And now they're still using that against me. Long story short,
Of course they are. I mean, they put you in a situation that they knew would perpetuate that.
yeah. And so I messed up for a couple months and then I went back, like I told you, back and forth, back and forth. So long story short, my grandmother, at the time when the case started, she was like maybe about 69, 70 years old. And she applied to get custody off the bat. And before she applied to get custody, actually, I forgot to say in the beginning, my ex sister in law, who knew the investigator, they automatically gave my daughter to her. So when they took her that day, still had to go to court, that hearing, whatever, after they take your children, that 72-hour hearing, whatever. Um, they asked me to list who I want potentially to take my daughter. And I listed about three people. My grandmother was first, my aunt, my uncle, and I think there was somebody else, the friend that I was staying with. So social worker, this is before I knew the social worker, knew my ex sister-in-law. She's like, "You sure you don't want to put so and so on as four?" I was like, "No, she just called. Why would I do that?" And she called maliciously, not because if it was the case that you wanted to help me, you would have did this a long time ago when I was crying out for help and asking you to rehab for me to go to rehab, and nobody wanted to watch it. So anyway, so we're in 2018 already. My grandma's applying for ICPC. She's getting home studies. She's on her third ICPC now that we're in 2022. She is on her third ICPC in home study. And again, it's been approved. They have not placed my daughter with my grandmother at all. The reason being, in 2018, they told her that we like the foster parents better, and that's why we're going to leave her here, leave her with them. She formed a bond already. And we're like, okay, well, they're not adopting her straight out. They're fostering, to provide for her in the meantime until, we're ready and able to take her.
Right. And, they've seen that across a lot of these cases that they're using that as another tactic is they're saying, oh, well, the kids formed a bond now with this new family. We don't want to take them away from there. Well, but, they don't take into consideration the fact of what they did to the damn kids when they freaking ripped them away from their original parents and all the trauma that caused. They don't
Exactly.
ever think about that.
No, they don't. And the fact and the fact of the matter is, like, they told the foster parents from straight in the beginning, and it was in the notes that they told her they told them that she was adoptable from the beginning. Not adoptable, they have their own term of what adoptable means for them, but meaning that they said straight up, she has no family that was out to get her or trying to get her. And until this ends, until we take the parents' rights away, meaning me and her father, then you can have her in the end. Pretty much, that's what they told him in the beginning. So the first time we went to court and everything, we're going over the ICPCs, what my safety plan is, blase blase. The foster parents are like, "Whoa, we didn't know she had family like that are supporting this child, like, in the background advocating for her
Hmm.
to come home." So that
Yeah, because
was
they never mentioned that, did they?
no, no, not at all. So see, my whole standpoint on it was my relationship with the foster parents was to be nice to them, because all the horror stories you hear about, these children staying with them until, they're placed back home with their actual parents. Um, I just don't want to cause anything so they can treat my daughter however they wanted to. Her father, on the other hand, was very, very vocal about how he felt, let's just say the least. Um, but I was still trying to get my act together for 8 months. And currently, we're going back. we're going forward, fast forward now, they're using those 8 months out of 4 years and some change that I messed up of the reason for permanent neglect. They already ruled permanent neglect last month in my TPR hearing because of those 8 months.
Oh wow. And 8 months, that's 8 months out of how long total?
4 years and almost 5 years. 5 years, let's just say 5 years in October.
So you had 4 years and 4 months of sobriety, and yet they're just only focusing on the 8 months that you were not sober,
Yes,
and
they
saying
are.
that you're a bad parent based on those 8 months. That's total bull.
Yep,
That's total bias. That's total conflict of interest. They're ignoring the other evidence, which in a legal court or in a criminal court would not be acceptable.
exactly. Speaking of evidence, actually, it took them 3 lawyers, 8 social workers, and some other people in between for them to actually get all of my documents and all of my progress notes from all these providers. I've been to two, first of all, my safety plan was parenting classes, substance abuse therapy, regular mental health therapy, and domestic violence classes. I've taken 3 parenting classes. I've been in substance abuse therapy 3 times, and I'm still currently in substance abuse therapy, but in aftercare um, for aftercare for the last couple months, and I've been in there for 820 days. I've never missed a day. Um, I've taken over 1,000 toxicologies or close to it, and I've gotten my certificates in DV classes and been actually dismissed from therapy because they didn't find no need, and they said I improved. And they recognized this a week ago when we transitioned from the fact finding to disposition, that they said, listen, we recognize that she did all this for her daughter. We recognize that when she did have her visits even years ago, she had good visits with her daughter and a bond. And
Yeah.
and so like before I came to South Carolina again, I was absent in her life for 3 months out of those 8 that I had really a bad time. And I told the judge straight up, since we had trial, listen, this is, I'm not justifying my absence. I did not abandon my daughter. Part of the safety plan actually was not to be around my daughter when I was under the influence or when I was just pretty much, in their words, strung out.
Right.
And that's what I did. I stayed away from her.
And that was
Because
that was in their best interest, because you know that you didn't want to have that influence.
that's the words I used. I used their
Right.
own words for them. And they just shook their head and just said, pretty much in just nicer words, I guess you want to say. They didn't use the words disgusting, but they just said that was whatever. I don't know the words they used, but more or less they just said it's disgusting. Um,
So
so,
they basically use that against you then, even though
oh
you
yeah,
were doing
oh
the
yeah,
right thing.
that's the main factor. Those 3 months actually, that so I saw once again it wasn't working in New York, so I was like, you know what, I should just stayed my ass down there, excuse me, in South Carolina the first time, no matter what they thought, and I would have been done already. Maybe I would have been done in their eyes or not, I don't know, because they're saying I'm not done now, and I've done all that stuff.
Right.
So
Well, it's like in a lot of these cases, they seem to be making parents jump through all these hoops, and then when they finish jumping through all these hoops, they're like, "Oh no, you're never
no, you
getting
have
your kids
more to
back."
do.
Yeah. Or they'll just straight tell them, "Oh, you're never getting your kids back," like vindictively and viciously, like telling them that after they just got done doing all these little things that they were supposed to do for the court, and then all of a sudden they throw that at them. It's just it's complete and utter bullshit. If don't excuse my language, but it is. It's
Mhm.
freaking bullshit.
Yes.
It ain't right.
Yes. And speaking about throwing extra stuff at us, or parents like myself or whoever, they they give you 2 options when you get down to the end of almost losing your rights. Because after, what I think is the 15 out of the 22 first 22 months or whatever, last 22 months, they can file what's called a termination of parental rights. And right before they filed it, I was already consistent in a program in New York before I came down here. I was already consistent for about half a year, about 4 months maybe, and they still filed it. The law doesn't say they have to. The law says that they can file it, at least in New York.
So they went ahead and did it anyway, even though knowing you were in
Yes.
this program.
Yes, they did. And I was in an intensive outpatient therapy 5 days a week, getting drug tested every day. Yes, I had a couple of problems, here and there, but I'm coming out of being an addict, a really bad addict for the last 2 years. I wasn't always an addict. I was a straight A student in college, going for and this is what I said to the judge and my lawyer. I was a biology and psychology major in City College of New York. I was getting good grades. I had a 3.2. I've worked union jobs right before that, even when I was on drugs, and they didn't want to hear that. And
Of course
and I
not.
do,
It goes against their narrative.
well, I do understand. And I said to the judge, I was very humble about it. I was like, listen, even though I didn't want to say this, I was like, I understand your standpoint and the fact that there are some kids that are being abused that really do need some intervention. And when people do hear drugs, 9 or 8 out of 10 times, they are really, truly being abused.
Right.
So I was like, I do understand there need to be intervention, but let's just say she didn't need to be taken away from my entire family. My grandma was fighting from day one, and you guys looked at her and said no. And then they had the nerve to ask her after they told her that the foster parents are nicer people. That's the reason you're going with
Oh,
nicer.
wow.
Yeah. So my grandma goes, aren't I nice? And they didn't answer her. And then my daughter's guardian ad litem goes, well, ma'am, how old are you? She knew damn well how old she was because you guys have all the home studies and everything.
Right, right.
So right there was discrimination.
There's
And
a discrimination based on her age, and then
yes,
yeah, they can't do that, but they're doing it, and they're getting away with it, and nobody's holding them accountable. They're all in it together. It seems like even the lawyers.
yes. And you know what I actually I found when I was doing my speech, which, we'll go over next time. 55% of kinship care is actually grandparents or anybody that's over the age of 55 or 55 or 60, I forgot. But more or less, they know these people that are seeking kinship or custody or foster care, whatever, are older. So I don't know what the problem. I didn't know you
Their
had to have it
argument doesn't
to
make any
love
sense
a
based on
child.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know you had to have there was an age limit or maximum age of loving a child and taking care of her. So I came down here and I'm doing a lot better. I had another child, which really took a toll on my mental health because I felt awful that I got pregnant during the time that I had, Lexi in the system. I have a 2 bedroom, 2 bathroom, right 4 blocks away from the beach. I have financial resources. I have my own money coming in. I have the whole community down here behind me that know me on a first name basis. And of course, all the advocates that we deal with. And they still don't want to give her to me. They told me, if you don't give her up and do a conditional surrender, which was giving her up and on certain conditions, like I'll see her every 6 to 8 months or whatever, right? Then they're going to take my rights. So those are the only 2 options that I had. So right now we're going to the last trial day, which is this Wednesday, and she's going to make a judgment in whether she's going to take my rights or not. But this trial should have been done and over with last year.
Yeah.
So this is what happened. My daughter's father passed away 2021 January. And after that, his family just came from the damn woodworks like roaches. They just came up out of nowhere, and because they saw that they were losing again in court as far as not getting my daughter, and they sprung up into action, people I've never seen or heard about before. If I have, it wasn't good. And they put in a custody petition for my daughter. Never met my daughter, doesn't even know her middle name. I've never even met them. So come to find out, the person that put in the custody petition or whatever to get my daughter, that was, like I said, part of my in-laws, his lawyer is very, very close friends with the judge and actually represented her in her own divorce trial against her own husband. So I had another lawyer that didn't do crap for me. And more or less, one of the big major concerns was this. And she said she heard the same exact thing I heard when the judge said, listen, there's no conflict of interest. There's a big misunderstanding. I didn't catch all her words that she said one day, but more or less they know. I looked it up. They went to school with each other. They graduated from the same class, ironically. But that can't just prove an interest, conflict of interest. But what she said. So nobody, I could, for all these years, even before that was said, I could never get the judge to recuse herself. I just think she's very biased and she's very hard. All my lawyers have ever said they were scared to even step up and say anything to her. And these are lawyers that have been working for 20 years. And she has never let any children.
That says something right there. If they're lawyers that have been working that long and they're afraid of her, that's a red flag right there.
Yeah. And I don't know why she bleeds the same color we all do. So, and they also said she barely, if any, gives children back to their families. And they started getting scared once I was sober for the last year and a half. Once my mind started coming back again and everything, I handled my mental health issues or whatever. That's what they're trying to use against me, mental health issues, and they bring it up.
They do that a lot. That's another one of their common tactics is to use mental health issues as a reasoning, and when it's completely based on false reports and false diagnoses, usually based on doctors that are in their pocket.
Yeah, and even if somebody did have mental health issues, what do you think is triggering these people right now? You took their children. Anybody would go berserk. And I said to people for years, if you weren't on any substances, you would be probably on substances now that they took your child. You probably do things you would never thought you would do ever.
Right, because of the trauma of them taking the child. I mean, that's kind of like how they're doing it too. And it's almost like they're doing that stuff intentionally to break you down so you give up and go back into those old behaviors, and then so that they can use it against you in the future, because that's what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly. Like they for years, like reminds me, like for years they've been actually changing the reasons why she was taken from me. It went from there was paraphernalia all around her room and she was playing with it. She was sleeping in the car with me and her father, which was not true. I never even slept in a car. Before she was taken with her.
Right.
I don't even think we traveled overnight anywhere in a car with her. It just was absurd. They were saying when they saw her the first time, they took their investigative notes or whatever. They said she's well taken care of, clean, and she was very intelligent, blah, blah, blah. So apparently, here we are years later, they were saying that she was incredibly dirty. This comes up 4.5 years later now in trial. I've never heard of this before, and I've never seen it on the reports, that she was born addicted to drugs.
What?
And I have the papers. I have the paperwork from Albany Hospital saying I wasn't even on anything. Nothing was in my system. I didn't even take Advil or Tylenol when she was in my,
So they're committing perjury on the court and using that as an excuse, that is as if it's a legitimate excuse to take kids, even though you have proof that that's not the case, and you can disprove their claim altogether. They're just completely ignoring the evidence that you bring in, aren't they?
Yeah, and despite, perjury, well, they have it themselves actually. Because when they first started this case, I don't know, I don't know where it came from. Guess they assumed maybe because I was on drugs that maybe she could have been born to it, on it or whatever. But when they got the stuff, they got the paperwork, they didn't get the answer they wanted, and then it
Right.
just disappeared.
Yeah, it didn't fit their narrative, so they got rid of it and ignored it, pretended like it didn't exist.
Yes, they did.
That's completely unlawful, and it's it's ridiculous. It's bullshit. It's complete bullshit. They're actually in an undercolor of law, which is illegal law, people, by the way, for those who don't know. And they're committing racketeering, fraud, trafficking of kids, through the family court systems, because the money, it's not like they're getting money under the table like this so-called Zoom leak, like they were saying in the Zoom. It's not like that. No, they're getting the money through the federal freaking grants, people. That's how they're doing it.
Man, speaking of money, it's really truly disgusting that a foster parent can get, for example, between $1,000, $2,000 a month, not including the stipends or the vouchers to get clothing and whatnot. And an average person on welfare is only getting maybe about maybe $300 a month for each kid. That is disgusting. And, sometimes they do, this has nothing to do with my case because I'm surprised they didn't bring this up about me being maybe not having enough money for my child to take care of her. But some people, they get their kids taken away instead of helping them. They get them taken away because they don't have enough money to take care of them in their eyes,
Well, they make more money that way. They make more money taking children than keeping them in their home.
Yeah,
exactly.
they get more federal funding that way
Oh,
when they
yeah.
have more kids in the system.
Exactly. Instead of, kinship, not kinship. Relatives don't necessarily have to be foster parents and go through that whole process of getting their license and whatnot. They can just go for straight custody or guardianship or whatever. They don't have to involve the system, is what I'm trying to say. So my grandmother was trying to get her since 2017, 2018, when actually the whole paperwork went through. They kept forcing her to do foster care. And I didn't know back then. I didn't know a lot of stuff that I do now back then. I didn't know people get paid or there's payouts for foster care. I know it sounds ignorant, but so now it makes sense. Like, you're still trying to get paid for my daughter. And the fact that, now I'm in South Carolina after being here for 2 years, straight, consecutive 2 years, they're telling me I need an ICPC done for me. And this comes up maybe about in December after being here.
Explain for our viewers what that is again.
It's like an interstate. I don't know what it exactly stands for, but they can do it interstate and interstate.
Is it interstate? Is it interstate placement where they're placing child out of state, or is it within the state?
No, when they want to place the child with somebody, like just say, for example, with my grandmother, she would, with the ICPC, includes a background check, fingerprint testing, home studies, the whole nine of checking her out thoroughly before they place my daughter with her. They do that with anybody that has a relative outside of, our state, which is New York. Outside of New York, because, which I found out, is not only to do a background check, to make sure that the child is safe. It's so that my daughter cannot be, my grandma can't pick up and leave and take my daughter. And, so it just brings ties for my daughter to have ties back to New York.
Right.
You understand? So I didn't know that. So I was like, so for example, they got mad at me because my daughter was supposed to go on a trip to California. Meanwhile, my daughter didn't want to go, supposedly, when they approved her to come down to my grandmother. Finally, after a year and a half, 2 years of begging and pleading, they said she can go on a trial run because they got their second ICPC done. And started off from a month and it went down to a week. And then it went down to, no, she don't want to get on a plane because she's too scared. So we're not going to make her. Mind you, my daughter was 4 going on 5 around the time. And they're letting a 4 or 5-year-old, they're saying 4 and 5-year-olds still have positions on a case. They still have a say-so. So like I was about to say about the California trip, I used that against them because all of a sudden now my daughter is okay to go to California, which is across the country.
Right. But not okay to come see. Yeah. It doesn't make any sense at all.
So, want to hear something funny? So after I brought that crap up, I was about to say something else, brought it up, foster parent, he's not going on a trip anymore with her. Because how does that look? He said, or he's saying, he says that he just decided not to, supposedly.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. It was awful. Like once I started realizing, I'm not going to sit here. I just thought that since the beginning and to like the halfway mark of the case, just to abide by what they say and just play, yes, sir, yes, ma'am. And then once I started speaking up and everything, because I thought once you speak up, you're being, because that's how I was raised. Regardless, when it comes to the state, the system, you start speaking up, that means that you're just disrespectful to people that are older than you or in power. But I was like, you know what, this has to do with my kid.
Right.
I am not totally at fault for why she's taken away from me.
Right. And and they act like that, like the way you describe that, speaking like, calling shit out when you're, like that being disrespectful to your elders and stuff, like they take it like it is, like it's a personal attack on them, and then they get vindictive and retaliatory on people for doing it. But they're the ones committing freaking crimes.
Yeah. And I finally started speaking up, and I started doing my research. And then my dad died. I know it has nothing to do with this, but my dad died in 2020. Like I had nobody really.
Sorry for your loss.
Thank you. I had nobody else to talk to and stuff. And we talk about this all the time. I talk to my mom and stuff about it. But it was just around that time I went online when I was doing like his GoFundMe and stuff like that for his funeral. All of a sudden, a group for advocating for people that lost their kids to CPS came in. And then all of a sudden they started flooding in. It was just like a sign almost from him when I was talking to him. And I'm sorry if nobody's spiritual really that much, but
no, I'm actually very spiritual myself, and I do believe in synchronicity, and I don't believe in coincidence. So I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah. So because around that time I was ready to give up, because that's what they asked me to, was to either give up conditionally or we're gonna take her. So around that time, that's when all of a sudden these things started popping up, and I was like, you know what? I will fight to the end. At least, she knew that I fought for her, and whatever pans out, she knew that I fought for her. And, I don't know. It's just crazy where she's at right now. I had a good relationship with the foster parent. And once I started getting, more mindful of the case and started having that kind of that mindset of researching stuff, knowing my rights, because it's disgusting. Everybody goes into this, I'm not the only one. They don't know their rights. They don't know the process of everything, and I made it my petition that we could talk about next time goes into that hopefully something is passed eventually where they have to tell you your rights and make you aware of the situation and so on and so forth, because a lot of us lose our children, and hopefully I don't, for being ignorant to the law. And I don't mean ignorant as a bad way or calling everybody stupid.
It's not at all in a bad way. It's what they're using the fact that you don't know the law against you in many cases, and they're using that against people that wouldn't otherwise know what's going on, and they don't know any different, that this is highly illegal what they're doing, but so they're using that to their advantage, and it ain't right. They're the ones that are using that have malice of forethought, so to speak.
Exactly. And I thought all these years, family court, criminal court, they're supposed to be protecting you. So it was like the police and everything, and that's not the case, but going back to the foster care parents, in the beginning, the foster parent, okay, let me back up. in the beginning, the foster care mother was all involved with my daughter, and I would see her I would never see the mother and the father bring her to the visit or anything, which I assumed that one was working or whatever. I didn't care. I didn't pay much attention to it. But around that point, I started paying a lot of attention to it when after my daughter got surgery on her mouth, and it could just, like I said, I don't believe in coincidences either. I don't think it's ironic, but when she got surgery on her, um, my daughter was only supposed to pick one person to go in the room with her right before surgery. And ultimately, she picked me, took it back, and then the foster mother said, listen, you want to pick your mother? You can pick your mother. Um, I'm not going to be mad. So Lexi picked me. And ever since then, I've never seen the foster mother. And she got mad that day. She had just had this face on where she left and took it personally. Supposedly she had to go to work. I don't care. To this day, I think she was just being salty about it.
I mean, usually you can tell when somebody's acting like that.
Yeah. And this is right before my daughter started not to call me mommy anymore. This is maybe about a year into it, and a year or two into it. And she don't call me anything now. And right after that incident, she just either called me Mama Jack or hey you, or she wouldn't call me anything and just run up to me so she didn't have to call me something. And she was calling this woman mommy and the other one dad, and right to our faces. My daughter's father did not like that. My daughter's father would fight a person right in the second physically. I would always have to tell him to calm down because our daughter at the end of the day goes back with them at night. And
Right.
It's a little worrisome coming now at the end of the case that, she stopped, being in the picture. Now towards in the first part of the trial, actually the first day of the trial, something was brought to the judge's attention, but I don't know who, saying that the foster mother and father were supposed to divorce because of my daughter, because it's just too overbearing. This case is too much, this and that, or whatever the case was. And that the fact that they're separating, and the fact that they're separating, I brought that to my lawyer's attention. I'm like, listen, by law, they're not supposed to have a foster child, with them. If one say if they're talking about it, either happened already or they're thinking about happening. And if that happens while she's still in foster care, that can't happen. She can't be in the same home as them because they both have to be registered and they have to be married, actually. One can't just have their foster care license and care for a child that's in foster care. They both have to do it. So I kept bringing that to the attention, and they didn't do nothing about that. There was another thing of the million and one things I asked them to do. I got rid of that lawyer ultimately. Now I have a fairly decent lawyer, a better one. Actually, my third lawyer that's actually fighting for me. But when she first knew me, she just told me to just, I know this judge like the back of my hand, more or less, saying it in a nice way. Go with the conditional surrender. Please, right. I am begging you to go with the conditional surrender. This is when she didn't know me, but when she started seeing like the fire in my eyes that I'm not giving up my daughter, especially after the fact her father died.
Mm-hmm.
And then she started calling people to testify. She started picking up her shit and really helping me, and seeing the foster parent for what he's worth. We just had a rough 3 years and some change, and I'm trying to think. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Take your time.
My daughter has changed a lot. My daughter's a little chunky little thing. She went in there, she was fit and everything. She wasn't overly chunky. She was healthy. And she's like, last time I visited her in December, my 2-year-old weighs more than her, and he's on track of what he's supposed to weigh. and they don't think they think she's okay by counting calories like she does, and tells me, I'm heavier now, of course, ever since I had my son, but she's telling me that I'm unhealthy, I'm this, I'm fat, and she tells other people, and she just has that in the back of her head of, so I don't know who's doing that, first of all.
Somebody's obviously putting that in her head, which is not right when you're doing that to a kid, because they don't, they don't understand what's going on. And when you do that to a kid, that's really screwed up. You mess with their head like that, and that affects them psychologically, emotionally for years and years to come.
Exactly. And
even just the verbal, like, it's whispering in the ear, like stuff like that, like that's sick. That messes with the kid's head, and that's just one aspect of it, but it does.
Especially for a child that's going through stuff. Was somebody saying something? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say they're grooming. That's the grooming process where they're
that's what it sounds like to me too.
The biological bond where your children are no longer addressing you as mom, and they're maybe afraid to, address you like that because of the repercussions, and they're really confused, and they just don't know how to approach it. And they're children, and they should never be put in that position.
Right.
But they manipulate it like that to where
they
project it like you're the problem, and it's them that is doing this.
Exactly. And thank you for mentioning that, Jennifer. Like, so speaking of grooming, so ever since I've been down here in South Carolina for the last 2 years, I've had, first it went from just voice calls, just over the phone, no Zoom, no virtual, nothing. She was a little hesitant at first, plus she was younger, even though it was only a couple years, like 2 years ago, and that 2 years makes a difference in their mentality. And so a 5-year-old's not going to sit on there on the phone, so I was very open to doing whatever for maybe 5 minutes or whatever.
Right.
So over some time, caseworkers were coming and going. So time I got here in January. What was that? Sorry.
I was going to say, I would like to offer everybody else that's on part of the roundtable, if they have any questions regarding your case, would they want to ask you any questions, if that would be all right, if you could. Okay, cool. Awesome. Because we're running up on we're 50 minutes into the show, and I want to do a little bit, at least 10 minutes of questions. And then we're going to segue into Sarah's story and let her do her bit. And then Patricia had to go, so we're going to air her pre-recorded segment that we did earlier in the week. We're going to
I have a question.
Sarah has time to do her interview.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jen.
So is it your youngest child that's underweight? Is that right? Is it?
No, my oldest one.
Your oldest is okay.
She's 7, and I was comparing it, and he's like 30 something pounds. He's a little chunky thing. He's not overweight, but the fact that when I picked her up that day, when I first saw her after 2 years, she almost went flying, because I wasn't expecting her to be that skinny or that that light.
And the reason that I'm asking this is because sometimes, or like more than often than not, children are either they're punished by withholding food or they're rewarded with food. So that was my personal, experience with my children. So it just kind of, I was curious about that. So
who has your children? Who has your children?
My children. Oh yeah, where are your children at?
My children. Well, my son is actually with me now. I don't want to go too much into it because you said with the time. But long story short, I had my son 2 years ago. I even had a couple of cases opened on me down here because of New York and because of somebody else just maliciously calling. That checked out fine. He checked out fine. And New York knows this, and they still don't want to give her back. So she's with non-kinship up in foster care in New York.
Oh my God, wow. I'm sorry.
And I just one more thing I want to add about the case before speaking about grooming. When I have my Zoom visits, she looks very scared for the first year of having these Zoom visits since I was down here. We do activities and stuff, and STEM experiments and everything. And then she'll look like this, whenever I ask a question, she's always looking to the side. She doesn't know what she can say or how she can say it. And then up until recently, this is where we're at right now, current day. She's having better conversations with me now that the case is almost over. I don't know where it's going, to be honest. A parent should know where it's leaning towards, at least.
Right.
After
You
you
should.
did.
D.C.F. teaching kids to not be there for their family, even if a parent is sick, and most of the times they're not, and they're false, but when they are, they keep the children away from that parent. And that never in the history of time have we taught children to not be there if someone is sick in your family, especially
Right.
parent.
Yeah.
Right. They're taught this. They're taught this.
Yeah,
They're
this is
taught, like,
definitely
your mommy's
conditioned.
bad. Yes, absolutely. And it's your mommy's, it's always like your parents are drug addicts or mentally, well, that's a normal response. You get your children ripped away from you. That's a normal response, but then they turn and use it against you. But and then if you don't show any at all, they're like, you're crazy.
Yeah.
Say that one more time, Sarah.
That's teaching people and our children of the future to be unempathetic.
It's exactly what it's doing. Yes, exactly.
Everybody.
It's teaching them to devalue human life is what it's doing ultimately.
Exactly.
Unbelievable. Never in the history did you say, daddy's sick or mommy's sick, stay away. What? If they're sick, we need to be there for them. If that's really the case and they're a sick parent,
Absolutely.
you're supposed to be there for your family through thick and thin and help them through their problems. You don't alienate a child and teach them sick ideals.
Yeah, and look at these freaking bastards in power have done over the last couple of years with indoctrinating these kids. Oh, we have to wear a mask. Oh, we have to do this. Oh, we have to be afraid. It's all bullshit. It's all about control. There is no freaking real issue there. I'm not going to go into too much detail on that because YouTube will take down our shit if I do. So, but I mean, it's really sick what they're doing, to the kids. It's really sick.
Keep it G-rated, guys.
And another thing I just want to add before I pass the floor to somebody else is just right now, like I said, we're at the end. Well, one more day left, and there's a lot of things that arose in the last half a year. Suspected sexual abuse that I brought up 6 months ago, and nobody's still addressing it.
Wow.
At the end of the thing. And the reason why I said this is there was other signs before the day my daughter said on October 13th of last year, said, "Mommy, I have a hole in my vagina." And there was other things that added up to that part. And it was just randomly, and she said it very low.
But those are definitely clear signs of sexual abuse going on. Obviously, I mean, if for anybody, even your average everyday person can clearly see that's a red flag.
Right.
And they never got back to me. And the last thing I brought up in court 2 weeks ago, which we're at right now, is that there was a social worker I had during the time when I told her, the social worker at the time when this happened, I let her know. She's like, well, she was listening to the call. She said, well, what is your concern? That's just awful that you didn't pick on what I'm referring to. And I just got yelled at and almost crucified on the stand last time for bringing up a Facebook post that her bragging about she hates her job pretty much, more or less hates her job, and that, for anybody that feels like her, they can't stand her job. And, instead of giving that a concerning email to a supervisor, just take your pay time off and just go home. And that's where I'm at right now, is getting crucified by this judge and awaiting trial the next day on Wednesday. And let's see what happens.
Because of an email.
And just, I keep bringing up evidence that's going against everybody. That email, the fact that the foster father had a picture of my daughter, putting her ballet shoes on with her legs open, up her skirt on Facebook. On Facebook. I mean,
oh my God.
He's not, in her eyes, what they said to me, it's because it's black and white. It's a black and white photo. They said it's very artistic.
What?
Yeah.
Facebook has a thing like supposed to have a freaking a terms and conditions when it comes to that kind of content. And if it's a sketch, something that is sketched, that's actual artwork, yeah, that's acceptable, but not photos of any form. They're
Well,
not supposed to be.
Yeah, he told the I'm sorry, Instagram. It's probably the same thing.
Yeah, Instagram's owned by Facebook, or
Yeah,
Facebook, I
that's
should
what I was
say,
about
because
to
that's
say,
really what they are.
So he told my lawyer prior to the last court appearance that I was taking a picture of her learning to tie her shoes at 6 years old, I guess. Learning to tie her shoes for the first time, I guess. So like I said, to wrap up my story, is I have a whole bunch of stuff on this foster parent and the agency, and nobody wants to hear me. They just want to go with the ruling of permanent neglect. And that's where I'm at right now. And it would be in the very best interest of that judge to let me get my daughter back. So that's where I'm at right now. So that's it. That's all, So I want to thank you for letting me tell my story, and I appreciate you guys for listening.
Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story, Jacqueline. I think it's important that everybody that's going through this share their story. And, I want to let other potential interviewees and viewers know that, you don't have to share your name. If you want to be interviewed by us and share your story, we can do it anonymously. We respect, and that's our highest priority, is our interviewees' privacy, if they so choose. So that's paramount, and we really want to get these stories out there, and so people know how widespread this issue is, because it's really rampant.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Jacqueline.
You're welcome.
Go ahead, Jen. Were you talking?
It's a destruction to the nuclear family. It's a complete destruction, and they tear it apart and they destroy it. They sever the ties, and they remove children, and they don't return them to their family of their natural origins. And so it is also not only just does it teach them not to be, not to be, empathetic or anything, but they also have emotional attachment issues. Their relationships, when they get older, they're unable to have normal relationships because they don't know what it's like to be in a have any normal relationships and have a maternal or paternal bond, which children learn that from a very young age, how to respond to humans, and if they don't have that, they suffer, and it causes brain damage as well.
Yeah.
Because that part of
absolutely.
They don't have no social skills. A lot of them, a lot of the children are on psychotropic medications, which cause, suicidal or homicidal thoughts. Which, why would you give that to somebody that is having these issues? Being caused by being torn away from the family,
right?
Not understanding what, and they have no control.
They don't. They really don't. They're being thrust into a situation that's completely out of their hands and being traumatized because of it. And the perpetrators of this are the freaking family court and CPS systems.
Well,
they're doing this, and they don't give a shit about the kids. Obviously,
here's the thing: is that family court is parental alienation, child trafficking, and extortion.
They're trying to say parental alienation now is debunked and it's not a real thing anymore.
Oh well, it's been they try to skirt around that just because there's a bunch of different medical diagnoses.
It's funny because they're using that as their justification in some these cases, like in Angie's case, that was one of the main justifications they did for taking her daughter. And it's like what they're really doing is it's what's really going on in this case. So in her case, it's the father that's alienating the child from the mother in reality, but he's flipping it around and trying to say that he's alienating him or her, from his daughter, which is not the case at all when you look at the evidence. But they're ignoring that, and the courts are using that to their advantage. So it's just when it works in their favor, oh yeah, they're all about it. Oh, it's based on the science. Oh yeah, this is the real thing. But then when it comes to you, they're like, oh no, that's been debunked.
Yeah.
When it can bring them like multiple streams of revenue, of course they'll use that, but they won't use that parental alienation word, because they don't want to take responsibility for it, even though it is a DSM and it is in the mental health, journal and stuff. It's been recognized. It's been happening for thousands of years.
Yep.
thousands of
Yes.
years.
So
So it's just one of those things where they can keep quiet and just that they can keep collecting money from it.
yeah,
It's all these people are
really, it's
crazy.
all about the money for them. It's just about lining their
And
pockets, and it's complete bullshit.
right.
It really
And
is.
if you notice, remember that it was just like depression, anxiety. Now it's multiple. They have all these different names because they get like different brackets of federal funding for each disability that the
Yes,
child has.
they do. They do. And just like kids with autism, they get more money for those.
Yeah,
Like
that's what I was about to say.
In the
Every
Bowles,
time,
family case, for example.
I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry, Stephen, but I
No,
just
you're
wanted to
fine.
say, that they get more money for these children that supposedly, and I use the word supposedly because every time a child is in foster care, they always want to do an evaluation within the first couple of years or a year or two to see if they have anything. And if they don't, they make up some BS thing that they have. Like my daughter has an attachment disorder. Wonder why that child has an attachment disorder.
Because of them.
Yeah. So even if it's just, so as attachment disorder or whatever, it's nothing as big as, the autism or anything. I'm not trying to like downplay any kind of,
No, of course not.
but you know what I mean.
I do.
But they found at least something so they can get more funding. So
Right. They're always looking for the next thing, so they can keep making more money, And you're right. It's exactly what it's all about. So, Sarah, are you there? Would you like to segue into your story for our viewers so that you can share yours with the audience? Thank you so much, Jacqueline. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank
If
you.
you want to
Jacqueline.
stay on for the roundtable, you're more than welcome because
Yes, of
we're at the
course.
end. We're going to be doing a little roundtable discussion all back and forth. So
all right, awesome. Thank you.
go ahead, Sarah. Sorry.
I'm coming. Sorry. I'm here.
No worries. No worries.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay. My name is Sarah Sloan and I have 9 children. I was married to the father of all 9 of my children for 18 years. We were together 20 years since I was 20 years old. And he basically financially abused our family for 20 years. And when I didn't obey anymore, I didn't realize he was narcissistic and crazy, but I was probably hiding it because I had 9 kids with him. So he decided to, when I didn't want to obey, he decided to try to frame me and he went to jail. And from that moment, we never really saw each other again because he couldn't take responsibility, as many narcissists do, for what he had done, even though we tried to get therapy. And so I divorced him. And when I did that, he sort of lost his mind and he didn't see our kids. He didn't see any of our kids for 6 months. And then when he decided that he was ready to see our kids, that I willingly brought them over, but we had a baby that was 2, it was still breastfeeding, and she's a little girl. And so I told him that, if she didn't want to go, and he said, no problem. He was, in the beginning, he was trying to be reasonable with the baby. And then he just turned into a monster over time, especially after D.C.F kept closing cases. He began to target the baby. I didn't know what was happening. He was dropping her off with problems. And I didn't know at first what was happening. So I brought her to the ER and they documented some things. In the state of Florida, a lot of people don't want to believe sexual abuse. I don't know why. I didn't know that was a thing until you become a victim. Well, my baby was. And so I was gaslighted over and over again, and every time built his stamina. And yeah, you can let him in. And so they wanted the baby to tell them exactly what was happening to her. And she was, scared of them naturally because they are dressed in full police uniform. The D.C.F's workers in my county are also police officers with guns. And so it's intimidating to a baby. And I think anyone is really, any adult that they don't know, a stranger, anyhow, there was many things that I journaled and things that happened, and I won't get into that too much. But what did happen is that he decided to formulate a whole plan, I guess. I didn't know, to make a false claim to D.C.F. He's since then told my kids that he has nothing to do with it, and like it's the state against me, and he's been brainwashing my children. And that I'm a bad mom and the state says so and all this kind of stuff. And so he orchestrated a 69-page smoke and mirrors bullcrap report with them on Father's Day. He decided to call on Father's Day when he had all 6 of my kids. I have 2 adult kids that don't see him. And they have tried to speak out in the case as well, and they've been ignored. They've tried to write letters to the judge saying that's false about my mom. They're adults and no one will listen to them. They've written letters about their father that will make you cry. Literally, I read the letters that they wrote and it made me cry. There were things in there I had no idea had happened to them by him. And they ignored that. They alienated me and my 2 adult kids from the family, the rest of the family. My baby began to ask my oldest daughter, where's my other family at? Meaning me and the other 2 kids.
Wow.
So after he orchestrated this big 69-page smoke and mirrors bullshit, she's crazy and she drinks. And he tried to say that I was using the pictures that I was documenting of her sexual abuse as porn, but so they took my kids. And when they came and took my kids, right, they set me up because he called on Father's Day. He had all 6 of my kids on Father's Day. He had them for 5 days, the whole weekend. And unbeknownst to me, he drops them off after Sunday on Father's Day, forfeiting his whole Father's Day and everybody else's, even though he had them for 5 days and he could have called any day. He didn't have to choose that day. And my 2 oldest kids showed up to say Happy Father's Day to him, even though he was a schmuck. And he had police cars all over his house. And my 2 oldest kids said, what's going on? And he said, will you give them a bad report about your mom? And they were like, no, you psycho. And they left. And I had no idea. And then he dropped them back off. D.C.F. allows him to bring them back if I'm so dangerous, right? I've lived in my home 18 years. I've given birth to 4 of my kids in the bathtub with a midwife. They traumatized my children in their own home that they all grew up in. And they let him drive all the children back 2 days later on a Wednesday because Father's Day was on a Sunday. So he drove them back on a Wednesday and drops them all off. I had no idea this was going on. And the kids were telling me they were so tired. And I thought they told me they had been making reports all weekend. And I thought it had to do with the baby and the sexual abuse reports with D.C.F. So I didn't want to get into it with them or get them involved or further make them tired. I just didn't want to bring it up. So I said, let's have some fun, guys. And they were like, okay, Mom, next thing I know, there's a knock on my door. It's a bunch of police officers. They lied to me. I had workers at my house, young girls, that work for me that are my daughter's friends that are in their 20s, and they work for me. And one of them is one of my 2 youngest kids, like babysitter. So they know my kids really well and me. And, they said they wanted to come in to talk to me about the case and close the case. That's what they said to me. And the girls were listening. And then when they got in the door, they said, we're here to take your kids. And I said, well, what are you here to take my kids for? And she said, oh, and she was a young girl that I had never seen before, which was very suspect.
They basically use false pretenses to get you to open the door, basically.
Yeah. And it was a young girl who I'd never met before, which I thought was suspicious since I had had dealings with D.C.F. with my baby. And I had dealt with the same girl named Kaylee the entire time. And now there was this stranger at my door to take my kids, a very young girl who was nervous. And she was she was stuttering. And I said, well, why are you taking my kids from me? And she said, oh, because you didn't take the counseling. I said, wait a minute. So you're taking my kids out of their home, 6 children, minors, from their mommy. I'm breastfeeding one of my children, and you're taking them from their mommy because I didn't take voluntary counseling when you closed cases, when I asked you for help for my baby, and you basically said, screw you. And you wanted me to then go take your counseling voluntarily. And I said, no.
Yeah, screw that shit. I would have done to say that's ridiculous. It's like, you know, it's voluntary, meaning that it's your choice. You don't have to do it. So it shouldn't affect the outcome.
Or why would somebody want to get counseling from someone who just said, screw you?
Right. Exactly.
Right. We need your baby to say
nobody in their right mind would.
I want you guys to know that my son actually told the D.C.F worker that he witnessed it happening, and they did nothing. My 4-year-old son, and you know what that taught him? He told me he's never going to tell me anything again because it makes me hate his daddy. He's not going to tell me his sister anymore.
That's so sick.
And another thing, they want you to see their specialist that they contract with, even though you I had private counselor. They want to see people that contract with them to go with their narrative as well.
Yeah, because then they're in their pocket and they can control them easier. It's what it is, really.
Yeah,
I mean, in the case of
when you have someone like an ex-spouse that's in there to slaughter you, it gets way worse. They try to use their affiliates to make false reports on you, and they will. They used a mental health evaluation. They actually violated my rights let me tell you all the ways the judge violated my rights. The first violation was the attorney that was representing my ex-husband was a big attorney in Orlando, and I tried to hire him, and I consulted with him 1 month prior to him showing up in court with my ex-husband and defending him. So the judge decided it was in her jurisdiction as a family court D.C.F judge. She decided to hold a hearing on it. Why are you holding a hearing on whether or not his attorney should represent me? And you're a family court judge and you're a D.C.F judge, and you're literally going to hold a hearing on that. And when she did that, she did it right away. They were smart. They're smart. They know the law like you don't know. Okay. And so then
they use it against you using stuff that they're counting on that you won't be familiar with to take your kids, basically.
That's right. And when I complained to the bar, it was too late, because guess what? A judge already ruled on it that he can represent you. She doesn't give a shit, right? She doesn't give a shit.
Bringing up the Constitution, they look at you like you're crazy. That's why I want to add on to that.
It gets worse.
They're acting under color of law, people, and they don't give it. They're not. They wouldn't know constitutional law if it fell out of the sky and hit them on the head. That's how corrupt these bastards are.
Here's the judge every hearing. She comes in unprepared. She has no idea what any of the documents that have been submitted on my behalf or anyone else's behalf, nor does she give a shit. She's not previewed anything. And she sits there and goes, hold on a minute. And she looks at her computer. Oh, when did you file? You filed this when? I can't find it. Oh, you filed it yesterday. You filed it 2 weeks ago. Oh, did you talk to my secretary? Oh, my secretary. This literally every single hearing. I'm like, what does she get paid for? Does she not review anything before we come in?
She's basically running interference and purposely not doing her job. And then so that she can sit there and waste everybody's time and say, oh, I can't find the documents, basically.
Correct. Then get this, it gets worse. My ex-husband comes in and he wants to he wants access to all my medical records. Like I'm his slave. Like he owns me. And guess what the judge says? My attorney says, that's against HIPAA. And you know what the judge says? Give him access to her medical records.
Wow.
She gave him access.
That's a violation
broke the law.
of HIPAA. A violation of HIPAA. 100%.
Guess what else she did? I had 2 mental health evaluations done that were very good, citing things like, considering all that she's been through, she's got a pretty good goddamn attitude. Now, they didn't say goddamn, I added that in. But anyway, she got a pretty good attitude, right? They didn't like that. My ex-husband didn't like those reports either. They were not collaborating his story. So he came courtroom and had the balls. I can't believe that the judge allowed this to go on over and over again. Him interfering with the reunification process. It became a slaughter fest against me. It was not a reunification, and it never was. But they pretend like it is. You just keep following our case plan where everybody's making money and cashing in on you on all our affiliates and everybody.
Right, exactly. And then yeah, that's what they're doing. They're racketeering people. This is RICO,
So
but then more than that, there's more involved in that. Because this, ties into trafficking of kids. They're making freaking money. I don't care what you call how. It doesn't matter if they're not doing it like with black market money, just cash. They're doing it through the federal grants. It's still human trafficking. Doesn't make it not human trafficking just because it's through the federal funding.
Yeah. So the judge now says, oh, my ex-husband comes in. And by the way, these hearings, were supposed to be updates on my progress. Never were they actual discussing my updates on my progress. They were too busy trying to slaughter me for every little tiny movement and breath that I made in my existence.
They basically smeared the crap out of you, basically made you, that's how they ran a smear campaign.
Oh, it was horrifying. And never could I speak on my behalf. I had to sit there with tape on my mouth and my hands behind my back, not literally, but
what a load of crap. That's such bullshit.
Right.
That's so fucked up. Excuse my language, but it is.
Hey, it is fucked up.
I consider it character assassination, and it's Star Chamber.
So get this, it gets worse. It gets worse. Then he comes in, right? And he says that he wants to hire his own mental health evaluation guy. And he brought him with him today. Can he testify so he can do a mental health evaluation of my ex-wife, of my own, that I'll pay for, he says. And the judge says, well, no, obviously, because that looks way too obvious, right? That she's going to let the ex-husband actually hire someone to do a mental. So she doesn't allow that. But she says, but you know what? Don't worry. We'll take care of it. We'll order another one for you. And it has to be biased to your allegations.
Wow.
So she literally ordered it on paper. And I have all of these because I am not done with them. Okay. But she literally put it in an order. Ralph, be quiet, please. I'm talking here this time. But, so
he's jealous.
He always wants the floor. But
she put real quick. I
have a mental health evaluation bias to his 69-page allegations. The evaluation can't even be done on me until this doctor that they've hired. And this doctor took them 2 months to find, because I'm sure they couldn't find someone that would do this crazy hookanani shit, right? It's against ethics to even do something like that, right? So it's unethical to try to do a fair evaluation, because I've talked to many therapists and they've told me that they would never do that. That's not fair and that's unethical. And so they find some cockamamie place called Multilingual, like mental place. It's an hour on the other side of town.
Sorry, real quick. Let me just, Liz says she's going to be going to hit the sack. She's in a lot of pain and a lot of chest pain. So she said, please let everyone know I love them and I'm here for them. So we just want to say, we wish you,
thank you, Liz.
Get some good rest, Liz, and hope you feel better in the morning. Just, get your rest. We're here for you.
I love you guys as a group and keep us all updated.
Will do.
Thank you, Stephen. Can you update me on the rest of what happened then?
We will. We'll keep you updated.
Awesome. Thank you, Stephen.
You're welcome.
Night.
All right. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Go ahead, Sarah.
So they send me to this cockamamie place, this multilingual, which I'm not multilingual. I only speak one language. And so to me, it was a red flag that they really had to scratch and claw to find this person. They went to some multilingual place that takes like foreigners and does evaluations of them, like all different types of foreigners. I'm like, what the hell?
Oh yeah, that foreign legal aid place, right?
I don't know what the hell it was.
Something like that, right? You were telling me about,
Totally. And you know what? My gut told me something was fishy, right? I should have never did the damn evaluation. My gut, you know what I'm saying? I'm saying something's not right. You know what
Well,
I'm saying?
if it acts like a duck, walks like a duck, it's probably a duck. You know.
Yeah. So she does an online evaluation, not even in person, because she probably can't handle the truth in her face. So she does an online evaluation and a bunch of testing of me, which I know the testing I'm sure was fine. So really her evaluation. And guess what? It turned out all the things that were in the allegations, like I need to have a
What?
substance abuse evaluation. I have no history of drugs. Okay. I don't even believe in fucking drugs.
They're
I'm
just
a
coming up with this shit on the fly just to come up with any reason, aren't they?
Yeah, I'm a holistic nutritionalist, and they're gonna say I don't believe in drugs unless it's something natural, right? And I just can't believe that, and then they're in the courtroom, they're allowing his attorney to say things like Sarah has an undiagnosed mental health whatever issue. And I'm like,
That's
sitting here,
completely improper in a court of law. That's ridiculous.
I felt so fucking helpless sitting there listening to these lies about me, who, by the way, not trying to brag, but I have been dubbed super mom my entire 20 years of having children, given that I have breastfed 9 kids. I have given birth naturally to many of them. I have literally slayed out in the streets making money in real estate for my children. I have worked until midnight writing contracts with people so that I can feed my children. And I have been there for my children as a mother financially, physically, mentally, emotionally. I have loved them, hugged them, kissed them, co-slept with them when they were breastfeeding. I did everything for them. I spent almost a year in the hospital with my son when he almost died. And I set up my office in the ICU where he was behind me, almost dying for months doing real estate while I sat there with my son. So this is like, for me to be going through this, it's unbelievable is not even a good adjective for it, honestly.
There really are no words that I would imagine that could describe what you must be going through, really.
No.
I don't think words do it justice.
Driveway to scoop up all of my children only for me to never see them. And it's been 10 months. They have alienated me from my children. They have court ordered for me to see them every Sunday, and I have not seen them at all. They've allowed
what? How are they getting away with that shit? Like, yeah, that's ridiculous.
Did the first visit, he interrogated them afterwards, made them cry, and then filed a motion that I should never see them again because I was emotionally made them emotional. What?
Oh my God. He did that to them
intentionally
intentionally and then blamed it on you. Oh, hell no.
Yeah. They basically disturbed my children, ripped their mother away, taught them that if you speak out about sexual abuse, you'll never see your parent again, and taught them that your mother is sick and never wants to see you again and doesn't want to be your mother. And so taught them that you shouldn't be there for your sick mother. I'm not sick, but let's speak hypothetically, because that's what my oldest
right. Well, they like to use hypothetical scenarios. Well, it could have happened, should have, would have happened, and in their justifications a lot. I'd like, it's a common tactic that you see.
And they use words that weaponize. Those weaponized words, mentally unstable, or she's an underlying.
It's exactly what it is. It's weaponized words because they use the same exact terminology for every single case, and it's a pattern that we're seeing across the board with these cases.
My ex-husband is a book smart bookworm, right? He's lazy as hell and doesn't know how to go out and make money, but he's a bookworm, right? So he uses that to his advantage. And I realized when I went to the rally, and I told you this, Stephen, I realized when I saw a woman holding a sign saying D.C.F causes parental suicide, it was a light bulb in my head that went off because my ex-husband threatened my 20-year-old daughter in the garage when he was alone with her and no one was around, and he got in her face, and he's 6'4" and 225 pounds and very intimidating. And he got up in her face and he told her, your mother's never going to see these kids again, and that she's going to kill herself because she's so lonely. So it occurred to me when I saw that sign, a lot of research prior to his little manifestation.
So yeah, he actually did some background looking to figure out how he could best. Yeah, okay, that's definitely a malice aforethought.
that is absolutely pure evil. That's evil. That is evil and sick, and there's nothing else.
The fact that
there's
they're letting that shit fly in the court of law is
Yes.
beyond it's beyond conscionable. I can't even imagine
Oh,
who in
they
their right
dropped the
mind would even think that is okay for any reason.
They dropped the case now. They did not let me finish the reunification of 12 months. They dropped it
What?
in. I believe that they got terrified because I began to come into the courtroom with, first it was my oldest kids, then it was the people that were here when my kids got taken. And then the line got bigger and bigger until I was coming in the courtroom with 6, 7, 8 people that had,
Oh yeah.
many of them had seen what had happened and have known my family for years. And so I started coming in with them in the courtroom. I started,
Yeah,
I
no,
started-
that's what you need. That's what we need to get for Angie's case.
And
Is
what did
something
you?
like that for her
What
for
did
her
they-
August 1st trial, because that would do it, right, Ange?
Sarah,
Someone-
what did they?
I'm sorry.
That's okay. What did they want you to do for your reunification? What did they have you set? What did the
Oh,
court
well,
order?
see,
you
that's
to do?
That's a good
Oh, right.
question. They
Okay, what did they start out?
Yeah, exactly. It's a rat race.
Right.
They
Yes.
start out with 5 things on the
Mhm.
case plan, and then that's not
Mhm.
good enough, or the ex-husband doesn't think that's good enough. So we're going to keep
Yeah.
piling on it, right?
Right.
So that happened to me. I got the case plan, and my first attorney told me, "You're doing great on this case plan. I've never seen anybody fly through it." And I said, "I want my fucking kids." And so I went to all of the, so to answer your question, there were 5 things on the case plan that were emailed to me. One was a mental health evaluation, which I had already gotten, and I was prepared for, but then I went and I took theirs as well. And then the other thing was counseling with grief, because they tried to say that because I lost a son that I needed grief counseling, and there was some those little
Right.
motherfuckers.
They're
Um,
experts, They're experts about that. They can predict future too,
They don't care about me and my son.
Well, yeah,
So they,
because they're good at engineering that future, really, really
Right.
good at it, and then they like to
Yes.
pretend it's all natural, and then but
Yes.
no, they're the ones that really instigated and perpetuated that scenario in the first place by their tactic.
yeah. And the other thing was parenting coaching. And then the other 2 were just things that I already had, like prove your financial, and prove that you had a home, and I own my home. So,
Was there any like family therapy or anything like that?
oh, it
Like
was
family
all
therapy with children?
no,
Or was
it
it
was,
all about you?
and they were seeing my,
Wow.
there was a woman named Heather whom I'd never get this. There was a woman named Heather seeing my children separately, whom I never met, who never made contact with me, who had no idea anything about me. And she was giving my kids therapy for me because of me. And so she was seeing them with D.C.F. They there was very sick things happening there because my oldest kids have contact with my younger kids. So I had an inside to everything going on. And my oldest daughter, who's 15, is involved, and she's, told us a lot of things that, like, she doesn't tell the D.C.F. therapist anything anymore because she just tells the dad, and the dad turns it all around on them. I reported videos of a boy butt fucking my 2-year-old's giant unicorn in her room in front of her while my baby was awkwardly laughing in the background. Like, that was, appropriate behavior.
Oh no,
That to
no, that's a
D.C.F.
huge red flag.
Yeah. And I reported that to DC. I sent the video to DCF, and instead of doing something, they actually took the video over to the house with my kids, and the little girl, the caseworker, the little girl, she was young. She's asked, she basically gave them all the 3rd degree of who gave that video to your mom.
Wow.
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 I mean,
if that doesn't imply and criminal intent with that right there, I don't know what does. People, the fact that why would they do that otherwise unless they were trying to cover it up? Why would that be their response?
They told my 15-year-old daughter, who has since they've taken her from me, has now been sexually active. She has, because the father wants her to be. The father wants them to be like disgusting kids because he's trying to blow the ship up, I guess. I don't know what his fucking problem is. He doesn't see them as his.
Wait. Okay, he wants his daughter to be sexually active?
Oh,
How
yeah.
old is she?
How old? How old? Wait, how old? How old? What age?
How old is she?
15, right? You
He
said?
was 15 at the
Oh
time.
my God. Are you? Oh, okay. Dude, that's
Well,
disgusting. That's sick.
He
Yeah.
had them in a separate garage. They're twins, boy and girl. My oldest that are with him. They're now 15. He's turned my oldest boy against me. Yeah. So my oldest boy told me that I did believe you about Mila, mommy, but I don't anymore. And I'm like, but it's not me that you have to believe, it's the baby. And my kids got way too involved because of him. And so my
He
oldest
brought the children in adult matters that should be only discussed among
Right. That
adults,
they should
not
not
bringing
even be
children
within
in.
earshot
That's
of.
just-
I have to say though, it was really hard to keep the kids out of it because let me give you an example. He brought my baby back one day and I took her diaper off and she had a swollen, you could tell like messed with vagina. And I took her diaper off and I was like, oh my God, what happened? Like just in shock. And my 15-year-old was sitting there watching me. My 14-year-old boy was sitting there watching me. He was actually kneeled down talking to me because you know how kids are when they see you, they get all around you. So he was kneeled down on the floor talking to me when I took her diaper off. And I went, oh my God, Mila, what happened? Like, it just like, I was like, oh my God, it just shocked me, And she goes, Daddy stuck me with a knife. And my son goes, Dad didn't stick you with a knife. Come
What
on,
the
stop.
heck?
And I immediately said, don't laugh at a child when she says something like that. You don't know what she means.
Right.
And it occurred to me that maybe he ripped her and it hurt. Okay. That it feels like a knife down there if you get ripped. Okay. Like I'm a woman, like I kind of know these things, right? So I'm sitting here going, holy shit, so that's exactly how hard to keep kids out of every situation in the family. But he got them really involved because the boys started saying like, we want you to take a lie detector test, Dad. So he did. And he orchestrated his own lie detector test, which by the way is not, lie detector tests do not stand up in court, especially if you get it yourself. He ordered it himself. He went to Tampa where he's from, an hour and a half, and he got it there. It took him 2 months to provide the test. And of course he passed because one of my attorneys told me that if you're the client of a lie detector test, you can fail 15 times before you get a pass, and they do not have to disclose those fails. Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. And detector tests are also easy to pass these days. And unless you have a real setup where you have someone interrogating the person, a professional, they're not really that accurate.
It has to be done. The scientific method has to be applied objectively and properly in order for these tools to even be effective. If you got any kind of coercion or behind the scenes, anything, favors going on, of course, anybody that works in those kind of can easily fraud, make a mock up a fraud of the results if they wanted to anyway.
Yeah. And here's the bottom line. A lie detector test is not going to take away my baby waking up on Saturday morning and telling me, Mommy, my penis is inside of you.
Oh my God. Yeah, no, that's a huge red flag. If she's talking about stuff like that, there's something really sick going on. Definitely.
The journal is filled with things like that. My little boy pulled his pants down, put his penis in her face while I was on the toilet and I said, what the hell are you doing? And he said, Mommy, dick suck.
Oh my God. And how old was he at the time?
He's not behind bars or
Wow.
nothing. He's not rotting somewhere that he should be.
No, right now the universe is working on it, I guess, but I don't know why these things are, I don't know why this is happening. I cannot tell you why. I cannot tell you why my son told the caseworker that he witnessed it into specific detail. And she said, go get play therapy. I need Mila to say it. Okay. I don't know about you, but the first thing that I think about when I think about my son having witnessed his father do that, I start to think about what is he going to turn out to be? Because I'm a mom.
And that's not something that children would normally say. That's not something children would normally say. That's
Go ahead,
children.
Jacqueline. What were you asking, Jacqueline?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut anybody off. What state are you in, by the way, Sarah?
I'm in good old boy state, Florida.
Okay.
Yeah. So I am now in a position where I am just strictly just fighting to get my children back to me and return to me. And then from there, there'll be some other, and I will spend the rest of my life trying to reform and get rid of D.C.F. It's called D.C.F here, Department of Children and Families.
Basically CPS, you guys.
I've renamed it the Destruction of Children and Families because that's the D.C.F. I know.
Oh yeah, no, they're like, it's ridiculous. Like, out here in Nevada, here in Clark County, we got CCSD, which is Clark County School District, Department of Health and Human Services, and CPS all having their little little racket going on too of corruption. We got that out here. I mean, those are the three that are involved in our little local community. But but it's very similar. It's different variations in different areas, but it's the same thing. It's a little triad racketeering scheme they got going on.
We're all going to pay our tax dollars for an entity like this to help our children. Then by golly, they should be helping our goddamn children.
You guys, the whole system needs to come down basically because it's gotten corrupt to the core.
Trained individuals, not goddamn volunteers who have been out of psycho wards. Okay. We're talking about children here. We're talking about abuse. We're talking about serious issues. What the fuck are we doing here? Making this a money chain. These are children. Okay. This is not where we need to make a money chain. Okay. Insurance, all kinds of things you can do that, but little tiny innocent people, humans, I don't think so. These are the people of the future. Imagine how, like you were saying, how they're going to deal with their relationships in the future. I am so scared for my children from what has occurred in the past 10 months. If it wasn't traumatizing enough that their father tried to frame me for money and we divorced after a very long time, if that wasn't traumatizing enough, now I'm dealing with the monster that my own state that I reached out to help from. And by the way, I want to tell you that in the first hearing, they actually asked, D.C.F. actually asked the judge that if I could never call D.C.F. again, if they could rule that I could never call them again.
Wow.
That's a joke. Are you serious?
I'm very serious that I could never call the children's hotline again. I would essentially be banned from calling them again. And so if I ever saw abuse, I would never be taken seriously again. That was what they asked.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah. So the judge said no. Sorry, my battery just went low there.
No, you're fine.
The judge said no, which I'm surprised because the judge ruled so many goddamn things. So the judge said no, but you know what I actually said in the back of my mind? Don't worry, I will never call you again.
Right. What else can you say? I mean, it's like, what, I mean, you try and get some help and then they say, oh no, you can't do this.
Look at what's done to my family.
Ridiculous.
That's like mentioning, like, if someone getting shot on the street and someone says in court one day, oh, you're banned from calling 911.
Exactly. Same difference.
So
what kind of system is that?
That's no system at all. It's a system that's designed to work against the people and against the children of the people.
After he interrogated them after the first visit, they deemed me to be uncooperative. Do you know how sad their affiliates and sick and disgusting their affiliates are that do the visits?
It's very sick. I mean, how can they live
People
in themselves?
are
How do they
so
sleep at night?
They would tell me things like they're going to report that my baby said that they're left alone. My two babies reported to the therapeutic visitor, which, by the way, I had 2 therapeutic visits in 10 months, and that was it. That's it. And the judge tried to, because my ex would make it such a slaughter fest every time I saw my kids, because he was completely intimidated because my children were saying to him, mommy doesn't look sick. Why? Mommy looks fine. Mommy actually looks really good and all this stuff. And so it was killing his story. So he really did not want me to see this part of the alienation, right?
Right.
So he would then turn it around that when they would get emotional, that it was my fault. And that they even blasted me and said that I whispered in my children's ear. They put me on the stand for whispering.
Wow.
Ear.
They're doing that. That's what they're doing. Oh my god, dude, it's sick. Like what they're really guilty of, they're projecting it on you, and then trying to say, "Oh no, that's your fault." But no, it's the
They
reverse. They're the ones doing that.
Yeah, they told me I was not allowed to speak about the case. I was not allowed to tell the children what was going
The
on.
hell?
And so the only thing I could do is sit there and go, I love you. I love you. And you have to imagine I'm in a tiny little family room with a therapist and 6 kids. So there are 8 of us in a tiny family room. So I'm hugging them and going, I love you. I love you. I got put on the stand for that. I'm a terrible mother because I said softly in their ear, I
That's
love
horrible.
you repeatedly. And they kept saying, why are you whispering in their ears? You're not allowed to whisper in their ears. And I said, but I said softly that I love them. And I was hugging. And that was the only time they put me on the stand. They never let me defend myself. It was only to slaughter me about whispering. Then they said I was not cooperating in the visits. My little babies reported to the therapeutic supervisor that their father was leaving them home alone with the 2 younger boys who were only 9 and 10, and that they were slapping them and abusing them. And the therapist told me that she was going to put that in the report, and she did not. And in fact, she did the opposite. She wrote a terrible report about me. She said that I had done all these horrible things, like I made a bad joke in the therapy. In the visit.
That's ridiculous. That's such a conflict of interest and such bias right there. That's ridiculous. So
also, the therapist also spent
go ahead and wrap it up real quick, because I got one more segment we got to play for that. We did a pre-recorded interview, and then are you going to stick around for the round table?
Okay, yeah.
All right, cool. Awesome. You too, Jacqueline, right?
Yes.
Awesome. Perfect. All right, cool. So go ahead, get a couple more minutes and wrap it up real quick so we can get to the last segment,
Absolutely.
Patricia Ward segment, and then we'll go do the roundtable after that.
Absolutely. I know these stories get really deep and complicated. And so if I've been
Well, that's why I like to have you guys on as follow-up guests, like give people updates. So like, every time we have somebody new on, we'll always have them on for follow-ups every other show or so, it keeps people updated on their stories and stuff, what's going on, and keeps our people in the loop to know what's going on as well.
Yeah. Well, at this moment, in summary, I am still working on getting my kids. I have hired my own reunification specialist and therapeutic supervisor. So in short, here's what the judge decided to do. I'll wrap it up with this. They pulled the reunification plan out from underneath my feet. They immediately it was supposed to be an update, and they decided to drop the case. And so I was very confused because I thought they didn't let me finish the case plan, even though I was on track to finish it. Even though they had piled up more shit, I still said, you know what? I'll get it. I don't care. I got this. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I did it all. And
you jumped through all their hoops, basically.
Yeah, I was jumping through their hoops. I even successfully finished the counseling and all this kind of stuff. And I had hired my own people. And I think they just decided that, you know what, this girl is not looking as bad as we want her to. So we're out. So they decided to just poof, we're out. And they ruled that I have therapeutic visits. How the fudge balls do they decide that they're out of the case? They're out of jurisdiction. They're not going to be visiting the kids. They're done with this. This is over, right? But yet we're going to still rule that you're in therapeutic visits. So they left it undone. They came in, they destroyed my fucking family 10 months ago. They've got my kids so goddamn confused. They don't know they're in the ground, right?
Right.
And now they're out. Peace out, man.
So they came in and did all that damage, and now, and they left you with the result of their mess, basically.
Guess what?
Wow.
Go fight it in family court, motherfucker. You know what I'm saying?
That's so fucked up.
Holy shit, right? So what do? Do you go, oh no, don't close the case because I still want to deal with you, D.C.F? You monster?
Right. What do you do?
You say, I guess I'll go to family court. Well, of course, because you don't want to deal with these psychos anymore.
Right.
D.C.F, who are literally setting you up and framing you at every turn.
That's what they're doing. They're doing that, you people. I've seen the documents and a lot of these cases that is going on. I've seen the fraud upon the court. I've seen the fraudulent paperwork that these people are filing in the courts. It's almost like they got carbon copy templates ready to freaking go.
They love
You know?
redacting everything too. So,
Huh? Oh yeah, redacting everything.
yep.
Yep.
So I told them this and before they closed the case, because remember that mental health evaluation that they racketeered me to get?
Mm-hmm.
They were trying to push me into, they were trying to get my ex-husband was trying to get me on meds, all kinds of shit. I'm a naturalist. I don't believe in drugs.
Right. He was trying to make you sound like you were need to be in a psych ward, basically.
Yeah, I already have my medical marijuana card. I got my meds. Thank you very much. So they didn't know how to deal with that either.
Right. They never do.
Yeah. So in short, they tried to get me to go to more shit, right? After this mental health, they added this to the case plan. I needed to get a substance abuse, a evaluation, a psychiatric evaluation, and some other thing. I can't remember what it was. And they gave me the people to go to. Guess what? And I said,
They're
you know
people,
what?
right?
Yeah. I said, guess what? I'm not going to any more of your people anymore. I don't trust your people because they keep making false
Nobody
reports.
in their right mind would.
I said this to them. I said this because I filed a complaint with the head of D.C.F. or whatever. And then all of a sudden people were calling me, all the caseworkers and stuff. I said to them, I said, you know what? If I'm going to have any of those evaluations done, I will hire the professional.
Right.
They didn't like that. So they dropped the case because they started to see that I was seeking out my own professionals to get a fair evaluation of me and to have to prove to them that I'm none of those things that my ex-husband lied about and said about me because he's upset I divorced him. This should be a flag in and itself when an ex-spouse that you have divorced calls in on a claim for all your children and you have no history of any violence or anything with your children.
And they just take them.
20 years, right?
Yeah.
20 years.
Yeah.
And that should be a flag. They should have never touched my children.
They should have never. They did it. They did it anyway. The only thing one can conclude from this is why would they do this? Because they're doing it for the money, people. They're not doing it for the welfare of the kids. It's for the freaking money.
And I could be wrong about this, but I think someone has told me that the judge gets paid every time they have a hearing.
Well, I'm sure he does. I would not be surprised at all. They're acting under color of law.
Yeah. Tell me how that helps children.
It doesn't help in one bit. It helps their line their pockets. And they're splitting the children to do that, which is illegal in and of itself. But then a whole lot more too.
Legal racketeering of children using taxpayers' dollars.
Exactly. That's exactly what they're doing.
No, Sarah, I have a question. When the case first started, did they swoop in and just automatically have an emergency order to take them? Or was there some time passing when the case started?
Good question. When they came in on Wednesday, they told me that they wanted to talk to me. And then they came back on Thursday at 4:00 roughly at the end of the day. And I think this was strategic. Okay. They came back at 4:00. That's when they lied to get in because there were 2 times they came. They came on Wednesday and then they came on Thursday. Thursday was to take the kids 4 or 5 o'clock. They literally threw a card on my table like we were in a bar saloon, threw it at my table and said, be in court tomorrow at 8:30. It was 4:00 on Thursday.
Wow. That short notice, that's ridiculous.
They knew damn well I could not find an attorney to represent me the next day. But here's the law here. Here's the shitty law. They have to have a hearing within 24 hours from taking your kids.
Yes.
So guess what that means, parents? No attorney for you. You're not going to find anyone to represent you. And so guess what that means? Your kids are getting taken because if they've taken them already and they're going to have a hearing on whether or not they should have taken them, do you think it's going to be that they shouldn't have taken them? Or do you think it's going to be like, yeah, they did the right thing?
Yeah, they're going to vindicate their narrative so they can still make more money. That's what's going on here, people.
Well, what I don't get is it happened in my situation. They waited a while to take my daughter, and then your situation the next day. If we're such a threat to our children, why would they take your children the next day? Wouldn't they take them the same day that they came in on a Wednesday? Supposedly, if you're that much of a threat to them.
Oh, but remember, they didn't have to even take them from me at all. They were already with the father when he made the report. Why did they let him keep them for 3 more days and bring them back on Wednesday if it was such
Right.
a
There's just such conflicts of interest with their actions compared to what they're claiming. It just doesn't make any sense. It's just, but they don't ever want to look at that. They just completely ignore all the evidence you bring into the court that contradicts their narrative and act like it doesn't exist.
And in the first hearing, guys, if it was a pornography thing, because he said that about the pictures, which by the way, is really disgusting to teach my children that when I document sexual abuse, that it's pornography. That's
Right.
disgusting.
That's really, really narcissistic of him, the way how he's projecting that onto you.
Right. But here's the sick thing. The first day in court, that not the one where they took the kids, but the first day of hearing I had, which was 2 months later after they had, because they take their time. They don't give a fuck that your kids aren't with you. What do they care? They don't care that your baby's not breastfeeding anymore. Who cares? Right. So 2 months later, they had a hearing. And the first thing they said was about the pornography. Because I said, oh yeah, I said, good one. Try to prove that. Go and find somewhere where you're going to find me child. That's disgusting, right? They can't prove that. So I knew that they didn't have shit on me, right? So the D.C.F. attorney says in the first hearing, because his attorney goes, oh, pornography, take the kids away. And she goes, wait, we actually wrote the report wrong. We do believe that she was documenting sexual abuse from the father.
Oh, wow. Now they want to tell the truth. Wow.
They did that first hearing and they still continued this shit.
That's
no recourse for nothing, I bet. Nothing.
All right. Well, we should let's segue into the last segment, which is we're going to play about 20 minutes of pre-recorded interview we did with Patricia Ward the other day. And, just in case she couldn't make the live, because she was here for a moment, but she had to go. I'm sure she's pretty busy with everything she's got going on, passing that bill, which is, really, really something to be proud of. So, and that book. So let's play that. And then we will segue into the roundtable after that.
All right. Awesome.
Share sound. Here we go.
Okay. My name is Patricia Ward, and I have a nonprofit organization, Curtis and Company, for children gone too soon. So we started the nonprofit to keep Curtis Law alive. So my son was murdered at 16, 25 years ago. So for 20 years, they ruled it accidental. And I went to the coroners. The coroner got fired a week later for falsifying death certificate. We found a 187 in his file. They ruled it accidental. So I had to fight that for them to even get to the next stage as a homicide, because they told me that he drowned in the because he couldn't swim. So when they said he couldn't swim, I knew that was a lie, because he taught me how to dog pedal, backstroke, little safety things. So I can't swim, but he did teach me well, Mom, if you ever in a situation of water, at least this how you dog pedal, this how. And so, because we had a pool in our apartment, and he was teaching everybody, the safety trips and how to swim and what to do. And so when they told me that, I knew something was shaky, because Curtis knew how to swim. And I fought it for 25 years. And so in 2017, it was ruled a homicide. I got a chance to get all the paperwork to the new coroners that's out there in California, and it didn't even take a day. He called me back in a couple hours and was like, ma'am, this is a homicide. I'm signing the death certificate as homicide. Now, death certificates, we have 4 death certificates. We have one that he died in Mission Beach. We have one that he died in Crown Point. We have one that he drowned in Pacific Ocean, and one in Fiesta Island. So the last one, Crown Point, that's a homicide. That's where he was at, Crown Point. So that's why I kept going back and forth with him too, because he wasn't in Pacific Ocean. He wasn't in all these other different places that they mentioned, beach, Fiesta Island. He wasn't there. So how could he drown there? So I had to fight them death certificates. So we do have 4 death certificates, and the last one I'm happy with, because it is a homicide at Crown Point. Now, Crown Point is man-made. So it's only like 9 feet deep, and Curtis was 6'2". So we have so many. A lady said that they heard a gunshot, and she saw him carrying a body into the water. So I went to her house after reading her statement, and she said, "I wonder what happened to that little boy." And I told her that was my son, and he dead. But they still saying drowning, not a shooting. But I didn't look at his body. I only seen his neck up. I never thought to check his body, but I got the coroner photos, and you can see where his face is swollen, is bruised, his arm is broken, it's just bent, and he covered up like this. His feet is twisted. Nothing of a drowning victim. Nothing in the position of a drowning victim. And then there was so much blood on him. So, and drowning victims don't have all this blood and coming out the bruise of their head, and his legs was just scraped. And so just seeing the pictures just, devastated me. But because the coroner was fired for falsifying death certificates, I don't know what happened to my son. So this is where we came with Curtis Law, because I felt that pain, he was my son, and for the system to not include me in anything had to be a law. You can't, I mean, just to block me out, and I'm going and asking questions. You as a lifeguard, you the coroner, you the police, the police chief. He would give me statements like, he would give me paperwork like page 2, 3, and 4, 5, and 6 was missing. So I had to keep going back to the police station. Hey, 2 is missing. Where is page 6? And so then he would give me 6, but then, he would give me a little bit more, but it would pages be missing. So it just went on and on like that. So I was just so devastated and hurt it. 2 years, and this went on for 2 years. This went on for 2 years, back and forth for everybody, and still not knowing what happened to my son. Why he didn't have no pants on. I found that out 2 years after seeing the police pictures, that my son didn't have his shoes and he ain't had no pants on. So, and the pants stayed by the body all night. They didn't find him till 8 in the morning. So in the lifeguard picture, he takes a picture of Curtis, like a drawing of Curtis, and his pants and the car keys and everything just sitting right by the body. So that was suspicious too, because things float. There's no way his pants would have still been beside the body all night. So it was just so many ins and outs, and I was just so devastated, like it gotta be a law. So that's when we created Curtis Law. Well, first it was closure for all. It was closure for all. So we did that, and we also have on our website justiceforcurtis.org. So if you want to read more of the story, you want to follow us, you can go to justiceforcurtis.org. That's our website. Sign our petition. We have 77,669, I think, right now. But if we get 150,000, we can get all the legislation's attention for this law. And when we found out the feds was involved, they had paperwork on Curtis. But they said that they can't give it to me because he wasn't the primary of the investigation. His name was just mentioned. And I'm like, okay, but he the only one died there that night. So what investigation did y'all got to use my son's name? Like, so that's what I'm going at. That's where I'm at with the feds. So once we figured that we was on a presidential level, we changed it from closure for all to Curtis Law. I said I'm gonna put his name on it, Curtis Law, because now we at on the federal and we at presidential level. So doing being that the Zoom came in and the coronavirus and everybody started Zooming, it was like a gift from God to me, because I just started Zooming all the legislation, all senators, all representatives in Jacksonville, Florida, and in California. So we got a hit. Senator Annie Cabarellas. She said, Ms. Ward, I know they hurt you. She said, we're going to take the law. And so if you go to California's legislation, it's SB 1268. That's California legislation, SB 1268. You can follow us there. And so we done flew through the senators. it just went so fast. The senators were just boom, boom, boom. So now we at assembly. So if it goes through the assembly, Curtis will be at the governor's hopefully by September. Hopefully by September. But now we have a draft, which here in Jacksonville, Florida, Representative Tracy Davis did a draft for us. And then I took that to California and they turned it into a bill. So now we got the support and attention of Jacksonville, Florida.
Yeah, I think that should be in every state. You know, I told you a little bit about my story, and you know, I think that should be in every state. Stephen stepped away. He had to go change his mom's bandages. He's he's her caregiver. So
Okay.
it's just you and I right now.
Okay.
He was wondering if you wanted to do like a pre-recording for like a promo, you know, like before. I don't know if we talked to you about that, to where
so this me telling my story right now is recording. So this is the pre-recording in case I don't make it. He can edit this and tell that use this.
Okay, because I'm not sure if you.
We got to. I was, telling my story how we got to Curtis Law and where we at now, and I was giving information. We also
I actually didn't have time to finish editing it, so we'll just play it out. So if there's a little bit of back and forth that should have been edited out, don't mind it. That's the only reason.
Yeah, that's the unedited, like natural.
Also an author. So I do have a book called Secrets Kept: Walking by Faith, and you can get that on Barnes and Nobles, Amazon, Audio.
And we have the links for those in the description already. And also, I'll get the. I would like to get the links for the bill too, if we can, Jen. And then I looked at that bill. I don't think those are the ones. I don't know for sure, but that. And then I think she has a page too, or so.
That is the bill. And then, but there's also a bill.
Okay.
There's two sections to it, and then there's an amended one, but it's already been passed in California, as far as I know.
Gotcha.
She's trying to put it in Florida.
Okay, gotcha.
So, but I there's a description. Yeah. So.
All right.
She's a phenomenal woman.
We'll update the link with the description with the rest of the links as soon as we get them, folks.
I can. Yeah, I'll get them. I'll gather them. So
all that it's available. It's available. So it's available now, and we wrote a book about it, and so to tell our story, and it's all through the grace of God.
Yeah.
All through the grace of God that we made it this far.
And also, I looked up those two bills, and there was another one included. Let me check it out. Yeah, I'm explaining the other part of the bill that she's talking about. I think I even mentioned it on here, I think. Because is there two parts to that bill?
No, ours is Curtis, the victim,
okay.
With more information. That is Curtis Law. It don't say Curtis Law, but that is Curtis Law. The one that says victim.
Okay, because there's another one too that I don't know if you know about, but it's another part to it. Something about the let me find it.
Yeah, I actually seen that, but it's in another. Somebody did that in another part, and I don't know why theirs is SB 1268, but I don't know.
Well, this one here, it looks like it's been amended in 2/18/22. It was introduced in the Senate. Let's see what it said. There was some amendments.
Yeah, that's Curtis Law.
Okay. Yeah, I did some research.
Yeah,
I'm trying to find the other one.
It.
I was going to tell you about, not just the victim. It sounded like there was part. I think I found it. It's all weird. Okay, here. This one, it was SB 1268.
Yes.
And it is, the abstract is, the bill subject is crimes and fraud. The abstract is existing law makes it a crime, among other things, knowingly present or cause to be presented a false or fraudulent insurance claim. Existing law additionally makes it a crime to, among other things, present or cause to be presented in any written or oral statement as part of or in support of or opposition to an insurance claim, knowing that the statement contains false, misleading information concerning a material fact. This bill would make technical, non-substantive changes to those provisions. So that sounds like a fraudulent medical claim or something. Is that
I guess so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was part of it. It was introduced to the Senate February 21st, 2020. That looks like that's part of it. And then, the other one about the victims' families and stuff, getting information. So that was about the fraud. So about the medical, and I'd be curious to see what that says, because all of those, the coroner, 4 different reports, they all got paid. So
Right.
that was my take on it. So yeah, that's and I'll send it to you if you like.
Okay.
And I think it should be called Curtis Law. You know that? I think that,
Well, the thing about a law, you can always go in and amend it. But
right. Okay.
we didn't want no pushback on it. So if you put a name on it, then you're gonna get pushback. So I just went on here and had them do it. Yeah, I had them just, as long as it's in, I'm happy. I know this Curtis Law.
And then you can, and who it's in honor of, so, yeah, it's about the victims of crime family, to information. Yep. So I don't know. Oh, I guess, yeah. He's changing his mother's bandages. Yeah, she had got injured by the vaccine, by the jab, and so he takes care of her rather than put her in a group home or home. So, oh my gosh, I'm sorry.
Well, that's a blessing. That's a blessing. He's gonna be blessed tremendously. He's gonna be blessed tremendously for taking care of his mom.
Right. And I was giving you kudos, Stephen. I wish my own son would do something, but his man. But anyway, I don't know. He'll probably cut all this other.
You say something, Jen?
Oh, I said, that was giving you kudos and praising
Oh, I appreciate
you.
that. I appreciate that.
I wasn't talking, and she's like, I hope he edits that part where I'm like getting stuff out of my teeth. I'm like, oh yeah, he did it. I was like, oh my god, sorry. I was like, oh my gosh, I saw that. I'm like,
oh, don't worry about it, Jen. Don't worry about it. We only got 5 minutes left of it.
I go, well,
try not to be worried. Try not to stress it. You're too self-conscious.
No, I'm not. I think it's funny. I'm like, well, I hope he edits out our conversation. And then here our kids playing. I'm like, oh my god.
No, I know. I didn't have time. I didn't think. I really was thinking that she was going to be able to be on the whole live, and I was going to hope and interview her live, but then it didn't pan out that way. So you know how it goes, though.
I got kicked off, but it showed that I was still on, and it still showed that she was on. But there's also some
let's finish up the clip real quick, okay, and then we'll do the roundtable.
I thought it was done. Okay, there you go.
No, I paused it because I thought you said something.
Well, I did, but go ahead.
Okay.
Part out. Yeah, okay. He'll edit it.
Yeah, because I'm sitting here picking my teeth and everything else.
That is too funny.
He'll cut that out.
Yeah,
I guess I did. My bad.
I cut it out.
Hey, if it makes anybody feel any better, these are dentures. Okay, so
pick something to eat. I'll be eating on there. No, he's not. This is just like an audio. I don't know if you've seen any of it, but any of the shows, but
no, you got to send me a link to the show. I
will. Okay, I will. Like we talked about.
Yeah, I haven't sent the link to the show.
Okay. You. He's recording.
La-di-da, we're waiting for some content to fill in the show.
Look at her ceiling. Look at her ceiling. So if you like,
Yeah, I think that was about it. Yeah. Okay, but there we go.
oh, good heavens. Oh, oh no.
That
Okay.
was Patricia Ward, folks, and she, her son was murdered 25 years ago, and for the longest time it was considered accidental. But then she actually, because of the fraud that was done with the death certificate and much more, she was able to get that proven as a homicide, and that there was fraud, medical fraud, with the death certificate. And so she wrote a book, and you guys can get that on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. We have the links in the description. I'll get the links for the bills soon. As soon as we're done with the show, I'll update them. And then, yeah, so I'll put the link for her page too. I think she's got a Facebook page. Anyways,
There's more than one bill. She has more than one bill.
I think there's a bill and then an amendment. Is that right, Jen?
Oh, okay.
Yes, there is a, what it is there is one that was, I think it was introduced in 2020, and then there's another one that was introduced in 2022, and that one passed. And then there's an amended bill. So so, and then they have some different events to bring awareness to go to other states, like as in Florida. She's located in Florida now, and there's I'll post some other things.
So she passed it in California, but now she's trying to get it passed to Florida, basically, right?
Yes, and it's and it's right. I think it's at the Senate or something like that. So, but once it gets passed, she can amend it and put it in her son's name. And like that's phenomenal. She is oh my goodness, is an inspiration, and I just love talking to her.
Very much so, yes.
She she's strong, and she's amazing. And I had a son pass away in 2022 or December 20th, 2020. And so she's
sorry for your loss, Jen.
needing to hear. She's like, you got to do this. I'm like, okay. I needed to know what direction to go to. I'm like, thank you, Patricia. She's like, you got to go pass a law. I'm like, girl, just hold on, get ahead of yourself here, okay?
You gotta love that though about people about her, and like people that have the drive and fortitude and to keep pushing forward and get stuff like and rise above despite all the interference and all the I mean, what must only feel like almost impossible odds,
Yeah, she cracked me up. She goes, oh no, she goes, I go get bills changed.
You gotta love the strength of spirit of that of that woman.
Can you give me some tips? I'm gonna get my notebook, because how do we do this?
Right.
So I'm like, she's like, you gotta go get the bills passed. I'm like, hey, let's go do it.
Yeah, no, for sure. So let's segue into the roundtable. I want to give everybody opportunity to give updates on each of their cases, just briefly. Like the Bull family. Angie, if you wanted to, you can. Jen, you can, and then Sarah and Jacqueline. We just heard from you, but you can still chime in too. And then we'll kind of just do the back and forth. All right, you guys. Does that sound good?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, cool. Tamsin, you want to come on and give us your updates?
Not showing the video.
Oh.
Yeah, turn on the video.
Well, I'm hitting it. There we go.
Okay.
There you are.
Yeah.
Go ahead, you guys.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Well, we're just continuing with overnight visitation.
Full weekends.
Full weekends.
Yeah.
And it just goes on and on. I don't see any end yet in sight. They're supposedly working towards trial unification, but they keep putting up roadblocks in the way.
It seems like that's all they want to do. Is like prolonging it out as long as they can. For what? I don't know. If only to line their pockets, it seems like.
His medical needs, trying to find a doctor that'll do what we want. And that's another problem.
Yeah. That's another thing. Yeah. It's just one thing after the other with these bastards. They make it damn near impossible, don't they? Everything they throw at you.
Because if we could get him improvement, that'd take most of the wind out of their sails right there, because that's their whole thing about there's no cure for his condition, but he's got to do this. And if you're not doing this, you're not doing right by it. Of course, that's not why they took him to, that's what they took him for originally, but that's what they're stressing now.
Yeah, and who are they to tell us what our children need?
Yeah.
I saw you guys' interview on the Stu Peters show. Great job, you guys.
Thank you.
That's a huge audience. You should be proud of that you nailed that interview. That was awesome.
Yeah.
I haven't had much feedback on it that I know of, but
Not really.
I know, it's already got
I
like
can't hear
12,000
you.
views, I think, so far. So the last I checked, maybe more now.
Wait, what?
I think it said it had like 12,000 views last I checked, maybe more. I know, maybe even more than that.
That video alone? Really?
Yeah.
Do you have the link
Well, then,
to the video?
Yeah, we have the link. I'll grab it real quick.
well, I sent Jacqueline, I sent it to you. I know I sent it to you on Messenger before, like
Oh,
2 days ago. Yeah, but you
You
can see it
did?
again. Yeah, they'll make sure you see it. Yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay.
I'm glad it got that many views, but like I said, personally, I haven't got much response back from it.
Well, they did tell us to reach out to certain organizations in the comments section on Rumble.
Mhm.
So I looked in some venues on that, but I
Oh, yeah?
still need, but we'll still
Eh.
need some people behind us. I mean, we can't do
Gotcha.
this alone.
Well, you got some, so okay, yeah, well, of course not, but you got a head start on at least something, so some angles to pursue. That's good.
Yeah.
Definitely. That's great. What exactly? Can you go into just briefly what that is that you found that you're looking into on that angle, like from that you found from the comment section?
Well, one was the Alliance defending. I can't remember the full name. It's 3 words. The word alliance is in it. I believe the other words are defending people, defense, something, alliance, defense.
Yeah, that's written down anywhere?
No, I don't believe so, but I looked into it.
Hmm.
And I think I showed you the application for it.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, cool. That's great. Yeah, no, I'll always get the links myself from the comments, I believe, too, if I need to. You said there are links
Okay.
on that Rumble video.
Yeah, I was in the
Okay,
comment
yeah.
section.
Yeah, I can retrieve them from that if needed.
I see it now. I see it now. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Oh, you found it? You want to share
Yeah.
that, Jacqueline, within the Zoom chat so I can
Yes, yes. I
thank
got
you.
it.
Don't forget Timogen. There's still Timogen. I mean, he's just,
Oh, yeah, still having problems with our youngest child.
Yeah.
You want to go into detail or not?
he's just gotten more, at times, he's gotten more, I mean, the degree of like explosiveness is higher now. I mean, I don't know what they're doing to him or saying to him, but.
Well, like I say, he's been away from home for 2.5 years, being raised by somebody else at a young age.
But like I said, like we said, this didn't really happen until the attorney came and asked about the first overnight.
Yeah, there was a big change after that.
Yeah.
It seems to me almost like he
scared.
was like they're conditioning him to be a certain way about it, like that, like about the whole situation. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. But they waited for the attorney, evidently.
Yeah, that ain't right.
I know.
That's just like the worst kind of violation that anybody can do to another human being, especially to a child. That to mess with them like that mentally, and it's not right.
Yeah. And he keeps talking about all these things that his aunt and uncle have. He doesn't realize.
Like I said, though, like last time we went to court, although you never know what DHS is really up to, but it's the only people who seemed antagonistic against us was the children's attorney and the judge.
Yeah, but still, if they really cared about us, they would have all just come to an agreement.
I never
These
said
kids have
DHS cared about us. I said at least they're.
No, I mean the rest of them.
Oh,
They could have all just come to an agreement and said, look, it's been 2.5 years. We can see what's going on here. Why don't you just send the kids home now and we get the hell out of these people's lives now?
Oh no, I stand corrected. It was 5,000 views. I was thinking 12,000. I don't know why, but it's 5,000, almost 6,000 right now. Still a good number. Still pretty good. Good number. It'll get out there.
Oh, okay.
Time. But how about you, Angie? You want to give our viewers some updates on your case? Anything different or anything you want to make? Maybe encourage people to come and show up for your trial, and like so we, in number is kind of like how Sarah was talking about, like she is able to do and get them to drop it. Her
There's
situation a
nothing
little
new.
bit.
There's nothing new on my case, really.
Well, tell the viewers that we need people to show up for his court watchers and at your trial to hold these freakers, these bastards accountable.
Yeah, on August 2nd and 3rd, I have my criminal trial from the retaliation from the judge for exposing her when I did last year. So yeah, it's a 2-day trial and I'm self-represented. So the people are encouraged to show up. They star chamber them, even my criminal case. So we'll see. I'm really, really actually kind of interested to see if they're going to star chamber that or if they're going to let people in to witness the hearing.
Yeah, that's just what was it? Was that remember that audio we had? It was he was all the judge was all, well, you can waive a jury trial and get a judge trial.
Yeah,
That yours? That was your audio, right?
Judge trial.
Right, that's what I thought. Okay, I remember that. Yeah, that was interesting hearing that. It was almost like, oh my God, they're like saying it out in plain sight. They're not even hiding it,
Well,
But they're doing it.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Trying to get me to take this lawyer he wanted to attach to me, and I kept telling him no. So, that was like one of his last
Standby counsel.
efforts, like to handle me, because that's all they want to do is handle me through the court. It's not about due process. It's about handling you to the way they want it to be,
To the way they want everything to go in their favor, basically.
Right, whatever their narrative is, whatever the story is. So that they just want the attorney to make that easy for them, because when a jury trial, they're either gonna have to stomp all over my rights or, like I said before, put the judge on the stand and let me ask her all those hard questions I want to ask her about trafficking my daughter.
I just put the links for the bill. I'm putting the links for the bills for Patricia Ward's bills in the Zoom chat for everybody right now, and then we'll put them in the description here after. But yeah, so no, that was great. Like Angie, so we need people to show up for your court hearings. Like Sarah, you want to chime in for a sec? You said something about that you had people to show up to back you up, as far as witnesses, and they were dropping the case, right? Oh, unmute yourself. Unmute yourself. Unmute yourself. You're still muted. You're still muted,
sorry.
Sarah. There you go.
I'm sorry about that. I can't say that's why they dropped the case.
But it would be fair to say that they definitely put enough pressure on them to make them want to drop the case. I feel like they need to.
Yeah, I definitely feel like it put the pressure on. When I told one of the women at the rallies, she asked me if I had a court watcher, and that's one of the things I was going to say to you guys is that
right.
One of the women at the rallies did tell me, and I can't remember which speaker it was, but she told me get a court.
Oh, you're breaking up. Hold on one second. Hold on, she's breaking up. Can you go back like 10-15 seconds? You cut out for a minute there. Sarah, sorry.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know what a court watcher was until I went to the rally and somebody said to me, did you get court watchers? And I said, well, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay, I'm in the car, sorry. So, yeah, so I didn't know what all of that was. I was just doing what I felt needed to be done, naturally. So I was bringing people into the courtroom because I didn't know how to defend myself, because here they were telling me I could not have cameras, I could not film, and I felt completely helpless because they were saying things that were completely out of my character. They were,
they didn't want you gathering any evidence, is what it was.
Right. So
that's when you
so
need
then
to start gathering evidence.
Right. So then I said, hey, if I can't record and I can't defend myself and I can't do any of this, I'll just bring a bunch of people in so that they can witness what you're doing to me.
Right.
And so I started coming in with an army. and I'd sit there for hours with my army and they would sit in the courtroom and listen to the lies. And I realized, and the father started backing off.
That's what we need to make happen for Angie's trial up here in August. What was the dates again, Angie, for our viewers?
August 2nd and 3rd.
Okay, so that's what we need to do for that.
And get court watchers, because that's what the speaker was telling me, is that court watchers will come in and they are non like partisan. They come in and they just completely and they tell them, I'm here to court watch. They tell everyone that, so they're very aware that there's a court watcher in the room.
I have a question. What if a
That's
judge?
the whole point, because it puts the pressure on them, so they know that there's eyes watching them.
That's right. That's right. When they know that there's more than when they know you are not helpless like they want you to be, and that there are other people out there backing you up, I believe that they don't like that. And that's when
they hate that. They retaliate when you try to do
another thing that I would suggest to do, and I'm not a pro at this, and I don't, I'm still going through it. But they did drop the case, and I'm in family court now, but I am afraid that the father is going to try to use the D.C.F. crap against me, but I have already, and I don't want to say too much on that yet because I'm going through it, but
we totally understand that.
But my point was that not only should you get court watchers, but please hire your own people. If you're in a case plan, first of all, I was told that I should have never taken the case plan. So if anybody has an opportunity to go to trial and you're innocent, you should. But I was also bamboozled by D.C.F. and they told me that I could potentially go 10 months before I get a trial, and then go to trial, and they make me do the case plan anyway.
I think
and so
Jacqueline and Tamsin have a question. They're both got their hand raised. Go ahead, Jacqueline, and then Tamsin after her.
Okay. Yeah. My main question is that we're talking about court watchers. Now, I mentioned that to my lawyer. She's had no clue what that was, and the judge actually said that I'm not allowed to have anybody to sit in and watch the case. Now, do I have like an actual right to do that?
That's bullshit. You do have that right. They're trying to star chamber.
I don't know that I would ask permission. I would bring my court watcher in.
Right. Yeah. I wouldn't even bother asking, because you have a right to be able to defend yourself.
That's right.
That's star chambering you.
Yeah. If they have, and I don't mean to interrupt, but if they have the right to have anyone they want sitting in that courtroom, and anyone can come in and listen to that shit, that is the case, you do too.
Exactly.
So like I have it on Zoom on Wednesday, for example. Like, what would you do? Just give the link to who I want to court watch, and
yeah, that's who you normally do. Yeah, we've done that for both family and for Tamsin and Reggie before. Yeah, we definitely would do that, to recommend that, because then at least it puts the pressure. They know we're watching. We're not going to put up with it. They won't. They know that we're going to hold them accountable. That there are eyes watching. Basically, is what it does. The same effect.
They can't ask the court watchers questions like part of the case, right?
We're here to back up the victims who are going through this.
Like, just get them involved. Like, well, what is your relation to this one? And have you?
Well, they're not.
It ain't none of their damn business.
Yeah,
none of their damn business.
They're just sitting in the pews. They're not in the case, so that I don't think the judge would ask individual who's
because
in
we're
the crowd.
more like it'd be more like observers, but we're advocating for your due process, basically, is what it comes down to.
That's right.
I just didn't know if the judge has the right or whatever could do that. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, after going to the rally, I felt like, even though they had don't record, I feel like I should have turned my phone on anyway and said screw it, and didn't even, just put the record on. They don't have to see the camera.
Right.
Just put the microphone on.
Right.
Because you know what? If I'd have had half of that shit she did in there, good thing that she kept filing everything in an order. Okay. Right. Because all the shit she did to me, she filed it in a damn order. So I got that. Thank God.
There's a paper trail.
There is a paper trail. Thank God. But I would have loved to have all of that audio on record. Because when they said I was whispering and I was on the stand saying, well, I just said I love my kid. I mean, this is stuff that's just is demented. And so,
these are things I would have liked to get, but honestly, I'm glad that the judge filed all her malicious orders.
Right. Because then now there's at least a paper trail, and you can improve intent over time with that. So Angie,
Yes.
what do you think about all that? Like court watchers, right? Like that's kind of tell our viewers why we need, Sarah's situation where she was able to get people to come in and advocate for her, as court watchers, and they basically dropped the case. That would you not say that with this scene sounds like it's like you're on the right track for as far as what we need to do?
Well, a lot of times they will star chamber the cases. They won't let anybody in. That's where court watchers come in handy at times, because they're a non-neutral party that are there to watch the court. So a lot of times they do let court watchers in. Now, sometimes they still don't, they completely star chambered. Like my cases, my court hearings have all been star chambered where nobody's been allowed to come in them. So it's been me versus them in the courtroom by myself, like almost every single time. Even my bond hearing, they were star chambering my bond hearing. So they did let some court watchers in, and a few of them.
Hampton, you got your hand raised. You want to go ahead and ask your question? Sorry,
Well, we were going to make a statement, about court watchers, because we had, before we got together with you all, back in February, we had a court watcher that was that had been previously at the January team meeting.
It was good. I'll show you some pictures. It was really fun.
Go ahead, you guys. Sorry.
Okay, and
she got kicked off.
Yeah, yeah. Our media motion was denied, and she had been at the team meeting, and that was addressed that she'd been at the team meeting. They said that was okay, but the court hearing, which was virtual, that was not okay because something about confidentiality, blah blah blah.
And basically, it was the judge and the children's attorney which the most were against it.
Yeah, and at first my lawyer was all over her, and I got on texting with him saying, "I want her there. You work for me." I was a lot nicer than I could have been, but yeah. And then eventually he started advocating, but by then the judge and the other two bitches, they were they were still all over her. And that judge wasn't having it. She said something about the confidentiality. Everybody was like,
Jacqueline's got a question.
You do for a living?
Yeah,
Jacqueline,
and everybody was like the confidentiality of the case. And
Jacqueline's got a question, I think.
Our advocate. So they were really worried about that.
Yeah, they didn't want transparency in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, but they made an excuse that it was okay when she was at the previous team meeting, but that was different. So,
I think Jacqueline has a question for you guys. Can I go ahead and ask Jacqueline real quick?
It's not really a question. It's just like the whole thing with court watching. You
just want to chime in? Go for it. Go for it.
Yeah, it's just like what I realized is like the whole thing of court watches, and they're saying that you can't record, and they obviously don't record these sessions, these court appearances. But you ever notice, if you're familiar with YouTube, they have these live sessions with judges,
right?
Ruling on TPRs. They actually have the defendants, everything, like you're in the courtroom. You can't record, but they have our whole life exposed.
Right. It's such a double standard.
Yeah. So just wanted to share that.
No, you're absolutely right. It's such a double standard. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, the judge saying how, and the children's attorney about how they want to protect the kids. Well, you should have thought about that before you violated their rights.
Yep.
Yeah.
Jen, you want to chime in on that at all? About the court watchers, the whole court watchers and whatnot? Jen, are you there? Hello, where are you? Okay, well, let's go to, how about you, Angie? Oh, there you are.
Oh, I'm here.
All right, go ahead, chime in.
I was doing laundry.
I said you want to put your 2 cents in about the whole court watching, having court watchers. What do you think?
Hold on a minute. I had to
I think that might be an effective route to take, and I think Angie's on the right track there.
Well, yeah, okay, that is an excellent idea. But here in Indiana, they don't allow cell phones. They don't allow anything at all. They don't even allow people to go in with you.
Oh,
They
that's
don't even
bullshit.
allow court
That's a
watching.
total violation of due
They,
process. Complete violation of due process. They cannot do that. That's illegal.
absolutely. In fact, it's even worse than this. If you
Horrible.
request audio transcripts, you cannot remove them from the courthouse. You have to sit there and listen to 3 hours of it.
You have to sit there and
And-
listen to it. You can't get no.
yes,
Oh wow,
cannot
that's
get
such
a copy.
bullshit.
Nope.
That's
And there's
such
another
bullshit.
thing that also as
Wow.
well, if you wanted, like, say you request, you wanted to look at your file, you can't take anything out of it chronological order. Well, I tried to follow the rules, but sometimes I don't. I kind of like made it to where I didn't make too much of a mess of it. She's like, I
Right.
told you not to take it out of order. I was like, this is my file. You don't own this.
Right.
And
I would have dropped it and let them pick it up.
Well, no.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
Well,
you pick it up. Like,
well,
right.
you know
Yeah.
what?
You're not.
I
Don't make it
did-
easy for them. Shit.
Hang on a second. Like
Go
I
ahead,
got
Jen.
an opportunity to get them back. So when I filed like 3 different motions, I time and date stamped every single page, about 90. She's like, can I help you? I'm like, nope, I'm just time stamping. It's like, beep, beep, and it's loud. Tick it, like an old time, like an old time
Right.
clock. And she's like, oh my God. And I'm like, okay, have a nice day. Thank you. Yeah, so they don't allow anything like that. And also the clerk, I went to file a couple different motions with my exhibits. Oh, we don't file anything on pre-existing orders. I'm like, then what do you do? What do you do then? You don't file something on a case that's open. So what do you do? She's like, well,
Right.
that's not our department. Go to room 20 of that. And I ping-ponged.
They give you the runaround, and then you go there, and then they tell them to go back to the other one, and then they tell you the they give you the runaround. I know it's bullshit.
I'm like, you know what? And then I have a trial, and they seal my file. Okay, I'm like, whoa, wait a minute here. Okay, and the trial and the things that was in the trial was in the file that they sealed. So, wow, that I don't know, that isn't suspicious at all. But
Right.
Anyway, they didn't grant the adoption. So, but still, there's more. They couldn't give, they weren't unable, they were only able to give me the last order. So I'm locked out of my own, document. So, but yeah, you can't take anything. You can't even, there's something else you can't do. You can only look at your file, in front of the clerk. You can't take it
That's
anywhere.
total bullshit. You have to.
Yeah, it is.
That's highly. They're engineering it so that you can't get any due process at all. Sounds like out there.
Ask your lawyer
And then
for it, though.
also, well, you know what? Actually, I did have a lawyer, and he said that but it was for contempt. I had actually 2 lawyers, and I said, okay, well, can you go ahead, since you're a lawyer, can you go ahead and do it for me? He's like, well, I'm unable to do that. I said, they sealed me out of my own file. And he's like, yeah, I just write the judge. Well, I later on, I ended up writing the judge, and they said, I'm sorry, we can only give you the last order. So they destroyed my stuff, basically. Yeah, so yeah, I had 2 lawyers, and they don't do nothing. All they do is
No, they just
work
give
for
you the
court.
runaround, and they don't work for you.
And
They
incriminate
royalties
you.
to the court.
Incriminate you. And the attorney that I did have at the beginning, she was a real estate attorney, so she didn't even know family law. She just went along with it. It's like, okay, well, I'll participate in this $1 million business, $1 trillion business, and it's kind of ironic that it's a real estate attorney. You notice how a lot of these families move a lot, so they relocate.
Yes.
They put them in different places. So yeah, just a tip for tat. Because why the hell would a real estate attorney know family law?
Right.
That's like a doctor that is like a heart doctor. Like, okay, I'm
It-
about
yeah.
to give you a kidney transplant. Hold
Right,
on,
right,
ready?
right.
Okay, so, but you know what? They train them.
Mhm.
They don't train them the right way. They train them the corrupt way. They
Okay.
train them. So
Oh,
you know what I
of
mean?
course they do.
So, yeah. So it's like they don't even, and they make a complete mockery. Then you know what they do? It's even disgusting. They have these little they dress up in costumes,
Mhm.
and they mock families. They mock destroying them. And
I'm not surprised.
I'll
I mean,
say-
their way they're rubbing it in
Yeah.
people's
I
faces.
mean,
It sure as hell
literally,
looks
though.
like that.
Literally, I mean, it's disgusting. And this is what they're using people's tax dollars for. to do this bullshit.
I know, and there's no
To go and
accountability.
like fucking clowns.
So you tell me that
clowns,
that the
yeah.
whole system isn't complicit and corrupt when there's no
And-
accountability on any front.
There's nothing. And you know, and another thing, the one DC or CPS, DCS, whatever the name they hide behind.
Mhm.
Her father is a law enforcement officer.
Of course,
So
of
she's
course,
like, you know, so she broadcasts everywhere. I'm a Kardashian. Oh my gosh.
right.
She's not afraid of anything. She flaunts it, in fact. And she has 2 children that they just recently, her and her husband got married. Isn't that wonderful? She can
Oh,
have
wow.
children, but we can't.
I know
that's
it's such
crazy.
bullshit. It's such a double standard. It's
Yeah,
such a
but you know,
hypocrite.
but you know, on and this is how it's kind of like history, you know, playing or you know, kids
Mhm.
learning and stuff. She's witnessed her father. He's got tort claims. He's got excessive arrests. I mean, it's just stuff. I mean, they were at her school performance, and he, you know, I don't want to get too much into it, but you know, she's witnessed that, but it
Right.
doesn't make it okay what she's doing. Because you
No,
know
it
what?
doesn't.
She came over to my house one time, and she knocked on the door. I was like, oh great, you know, like, and she goes, yeah, I'm just worried you're suicidal. I'm like, you waited like 6 months to make sure I'm suicidal.
She's
Or
she's
you haven't
gaslighting
done-
you. She's trying to gaslight you. That's what
I
she's
go,
doing.
why? I go, why is it that you think I'm suicidal? All of a sudden, I said, did you get like a premonition? And she's like, no, you know, I was like, yeah, well, no, I'm okay. I do see a psychiatrist. So he's got the credentials that you don't. So if I feel suicidal, I'll call him and not you. But thank you
Right,
for
right,
offering me your
right, right.
services. And then guess what? She left. Guess who showed up? The police. 2
Oh
cops.
wow.
I'm like, officers, I'm fine. He goes, I'm okay. I said, if I feel like I'm going to kill myself, I'll call my psychiatrist, not my DCS worker. But thank you. Have a nice day. And he's like, all right, man, bye. Just do what they tell you to do. I'm like, yeah, fuck you.
Do what they tell you to
They
do. What
tell
kind of shit is that?
Yeah.
What kind of shit advice is
Yeah.
that?
I know. I'm like, I mean, and it's like, I mean, I think if they felt like I was a danger for myself, they would take me. But I think they
Right.
knew she was full of shit because she's
Right.
well known to be.
Well, they
you know
had
what
to
I
have
mean?
known that. They had to have known that.
But you know, she was like Miss Val, something I can't remember. And
Right.
yeah, it's just crazy. It's just absolutely
So
crazy. So
let's like do a
Mhm.
Angie. I haven't heard from you, and just we just briefly. You've been sleeping the last few days, huh? So any new insights for everybody, or anything else you want to chime in on about everything?
Angie, am I gonna get abducted by aliens?
No, come on now.
No, I don't
kidding.
think so.
Well, dang, no, I'm kidding. No.
Just that people need to understand that this goes way deeper than what they think, that what they are doing is a part of the bigger agenda to keep us under control. And they've done it in the past, in the history, you know, if you really dive in, you look into our stolen history, they have stolen children time and time again. The orphan trains are not what they say they were. Those children were stolen. And when they steal these children, the society disassociates themselves. So when they do that, when they can make the entire, you know, population disassociate themselves, they can change anything they want and manipulate you into any way to keep you in their slavery. And this plays a big part in the overall of what's going on with like the WHO and, you know, with them trying to take our sovereignties and everything like that, everything that's going on with the world being so upside down. This just is another little, you know, part of that agenda. And it is to help disassociate the population from reality, basically, so they can manipulate and do what they want to do to keep people in control like they have been doing so many years.
Yeah, no, definitely. No, it's all programming and mind. You know, they're it's conditioning. It's, you know, this is not rocket science. It's freaking basic conditioning. You know, and you know that's what they're doing. If you look at the history of it, and you actually look, there's a lot of stuff that we don't really pay attention to or take for granted, and I totally believe that. You know, and there's so much more when you look into it and realize what's really going on. And the great part about now is they're not even hiding it, and that's going to be their Achilles heel. That's going to be their downfall, because they're not even hiding it. It's right out there in the open for anybody to find in public domain these days. You know what I mean? They're being really blatant about it in a lot of ways, I think. Wouldn't you guys agree?
They're just trying to do whatever they know. It's like, we know people are starting to realize, so they're just trying It's like throwing spaghetti at the wall and just seeing how many pieces will stick.
Seeing what sticks. Seeing what sticks. Yep. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I agree. I think that's what we're witnessing. Like they're throwing everything they got at the wall because they don't have anything left. They know that they're screwed. Just they're playing it out, you know. Well, we gotta just keep doing, keep pushing, keep pushing until all these freaking corrupt and complicit parties and accountable parties are held accountable once and for all. Because this has gone too far on so many levels, you know.
Right. And it will keep going if we allow it. But
yeah, if we allow it, we don't have to allow it, folks, but we all have to take proactive action to make it stop. And that means showing up in mass and, demanding change and demanding that these bastards that are running these fucking kangaroo courts be taken out of office and held accountable for their crimes. Period. No more career politicians, none of that shit. We're not going to get any progress with that shit anymore. We need to start swapping out citizens in positions of power every few and have term limits. That's the only way we're going to get our system back, I think, in any way, shape, or form. I mean, it might even be too far gone for that already. I don't know.
Well, I think qualified immunity needs to stop like ASAP.
Most definitely, definitely, because they've abused that one far too often.
And I don't understand how social workers have almost about the same, if not the same, kind of immunity as a judge who has all this power.
Their immunity, there's a line to their immunity. They can step over that line and be held accountable for what they're doing. Their immunity, it only covers them so far, you know, and then there is a line there that you can get them after a while. If they overstep that line and step out of their jurisdiction, out of what, you know, they're doing, you can go after them. That is all part of the lie, to make people believe that they can't do anything, to make them feel powerless and
but
helpless.
yeah, you can go after them, but you know, and it might take a little bit, you know, to do it, to go after, but you can do it, totally do it.
I mean, if they're all colluded together, then that's a whole nother story. But the fact is, their immunity ends at a certain point, you know, like they don't have full immunity to do.
Yeah, there is certain case law and precedent on that, I believe. Is there not, Angie?
Huh?
There is certain case law and precedent on that, I believe.
Yeah,
is there not?
Stuff in place. Like they just can't do whatever they want. They have led people to believe and feel helpless and believe that they have this, you know, God power, that they're above the law, but they're not. And, you know, when people start learning, you know, that's why it's so important for everybody to know their rights, you know, like Jacqueline, you were saying earlier,
absolutely,
that you don't know all this stuff until you're so far in. And that's the thing. People need to know what their rights are when they walk into that courtroom, you know. And
even one of my multiple lawyers told me that until they start holding these CPS workers accountable for perjuring themselves, for open perjury in court. And don't tell me the judge and the DA don't know they're perjuring.
Oh no, they're all aware of it.
Affidavits, none of this is ever going to change.
Well, they've done it in other states, but here in Oklahoma, they seem to be covering for each other.
Yeah, I mean, it's obvious that they're perjuring
together. And when you got a cabal,
you know that the DA and the judge knows it, and they just let it go. They know they're perjuring themselves.
They're all working together. Their cash cow is flowing. You know, they're trafficking these kids. They're making money. I mean, they're making hand over fist in money, not only by their government's title ID, IV, whatever, their things they get from the government, but they're making cash money. I mean, they're draining people's life savings, their homes, people's savings for their kids' education. They're draining all of that. So they're getting that on top of that, you know, and then they're going to give it to the abuser, because the protective parent's going to give everything they have until their last penny, fighting, and they know how to drain a person. The first thing they have you do in family court is give your financials. That is the first thing they ask for. So they already know from the flip where the money is, who's got what money and what they can take. They know your house. They know everything about your finances.
Right.
So they know from the beginning how they're going to work that to take all that money.
It's all with malice of forethought, because they're already planning it well ahead in advance. It looks like, you know.
Oh well, yeah, from the very first court hearing, they're planning that.
Well, like that's why I feel like they don't want. Well, it is it's out there and it's obvious that they don't like kinship because they lose all that money. They lose their cash
Right.
cow,
Lose
which
a
is
ton
our
of money
kid.
that way.
It's not in their
And
financial interest that way.
like I mentioned before, the fact that, you know, for example, my grandma didn't have to do foster care to get my daughter. She had other options to go about it. But as soon as she took her from another state, what happens? New York loses their money, and they can't control her anymore, nor my grandmother, you know? So it's all about power, and money can dictate everything. It's just ridiculous.
Well,
It is.
that's why they come up with that compact for the home state, you know, so that they knew where the money was going to stay. You know, there's a compact for that.
Right.
So yeah, like my last case was here in St. Louis. I don't even know how it was because they shouldn't even have been the home state. You know, Montana should have been, but they have a compact, so they know where that money is. They've secured that a long time ago.
Well,
And you know,
go ahead.
I don't mean to show off, Stephen. I don't know too much about like the title. What is it? The Title 4E or whatever it's called, Stephen, right? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I'm not entirely sure.
Social Security. Yeah,
specifically-
it's like the money that they allocate. Now there's different
Okay, regarding the funding. Okay,
sections of
gotcha.
it. Yeah. So
I'm not entirely sure, and I haven't looked into that, but I'll have to do that definitely.
yeah, they have it's just
Send me
this-
the sections and subsections numbers. I'll look it up.
Oh, it really don't matter.
Yeah,
You
they
might as well
have-
just give them your bra size.
they all right. They
But
have
no, it shows
different-
where the money's going, though. I believe is what she's getting at,
so
right?
that's what I was about to say. I was about to say that they have more money allocated towards foster care, but they actually, it was in that the Social Security whatever money that I'm
Mhm.
talking about. I have to get the exact name. I'll send it to you.
All right.
But there is money in there that should be going for preventive services, which nobody
Right.
knows about. And you would think that they would have more money for those preventive services, so history doesn't keep repeating itself.
Right,
like,
but where does
for
that money
substance
going?
abuse.
If I mean, look at the state of the way it is right now.
Yeah.
Oh,
It looks like they're not even utilizing that for that at all.
No, not at all. Like they should be like, before taking these children, the people that actually have mental health issues or substance abuse issues, that they should be finding a way of, you know, keeping them with these families than
Right.
ripping them out, you know? So
Right.
I don't know.
Make money that
So
way.
we're getting close to running up on 3 hours. So it's been a great show, but we should probably wind it down for the night. But definitely gonna have you back on, Jacqueline. Definitely Sarah back on, and Patricia too when we're able. Definitely for follow-ups. So great. Thank you guys so much for sharing your stories.
Steven?
And did you guys want to say something, Tamsin and Reggie, real quick?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was at least one thing regarding the private attorney, what was it, private attorney?
Yeah, when we hired a
Yeah,
private attorney, later on, one of her attorneys tried to get her for defrauding the court.
Yeah,
Her-
fraud upon the court.
Because we were able to later on hire a private attorney, and they were trying to show that she had defrauded the court by originally having a pauper's affidavit.
Yeah, because saying that it was he said it was incomplete as
What?
something about how I was able to. Yeah,
That's
I was able to.
That's such bull. That's ridiculous.
Well, he was mad because I.
That was his
belligerent.
argument. Like that. Wow, that's crazy. Like he obviously didn't like that you got your own lawyer.
Well, yeah, something. Well, he had to have something to use against me. He tried to claim I was belligerent because when he first called me, when he first got assigned to me after our private attorney abandoned us because we ran out of money. So he got assigned to me. Now, this is not the one I currently have and had in the beginning, but this somebody in between. So he got assigned to me, and he called me. The first time he called me, we were waiting on a visit with the boys. We're at the park, so they were almost there. And then he calls. What happened was he read only one name, so I panicked. And this was not directed toward him. He's the messenger. He didn't. He's coming onto the case, so he didn't have all the details. Well, anyways, and I know that DHS can pull tricks like trying to offer one kid if you have like multiple children, they can offer one child and adopt the other one. So I thought maybe DHS was pulling that. So I panicked and kind of raised my voice, but I was not angry at him. I was just upset at the situation, possible situation. Right. So he took that the other way and used that against me.
He took it all personally and got retaliated, didn't he?
What?
He said he got all butthurt and then retaliated, didn't he?
Yeah, he basically violated attorney-client privilege.
Yeah, he did that too. Yeah, he did that in some
There you
ways.
go.
Yeah.
And when the judge released him, the judge didn't ask her side at all. Just all this stuff he said about Timpson. Oh, well, okay, you're off the case.
Yeah.
And that's why one we're dealing with now, right?
No, it's not the same one.
Oh, it's a different judge.
Hell no, I wouldn't have him.
No,
Oh, the judge. Oh, the judge.
The
Yes.
same judge, though,
I think
right?
with the lawyer. Yes, the judge. Yeah.
So now she has all this bad information on Timpson.
Wow.
And just
It's all false
no
too.
proof.
It's all baseless.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
She's going to deal from there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's been a great show, you guys, and we should definitely do one of these 3-hour ones again in the near future. We definitely, it was great having you on, Jacqueline.
Thank you
You
so
too,
much.
Sarah, as well as Patricia. Even though we didn't get to speak to you live, we did air your pre-recorded segment, so thank you for letting us do that. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Rumble. All the links are in the description. We have a few other podcasts. We have a new News for Us World Fringe Division podcast, which is where we talk about like stuff like higher consciousness, NDEs, unexplained phenomena, UFOs, whatever, that kind of subject material. So I made that specifically for that. We're going to be doing that. We have an interview with Michael Lumen on how to heal yourself and his methods and insights into consciousness and how you can heal yourself using your manifestation. So we're going to be interviewing him on Wednesday's show. It's going to be a really good one. Looking forward to that. Jen, you're going to be on that with us, and so we look forward to that. Let's see. And then we have we didn't do our tips, techniques, and survival traits this last Saturday because I just kind of was like I had so much going on. So we're going to resume that this upcoming week for that as well when we do our next Fringe Division podcast episode, which will be this Wednesday. So that's the lineup. And then Angie, any word on I see you sent that design for me on Canva regarding your podcast that you got coming up here. Want to tell our viewers about that and what your timeline's looking like for that real quick before we end the
I'm still working on it, still work in progress, but that should be coming up in the next week or two. It'll be
Nice.
like a female round table, kind of just about anything and everything. There's nothing really going to be off limits that we're not going to talk about. So,
and it's kind of going to be cathartic. At one point you said you were going to use it like as a forum to like kind of to heal, right?
well, yeah, and to help people heal, because like I said, that I've run across a lot of people advocating for my daughter that are like in the same situation. So yeah, hopefully it'll offer a place for some kind of healing for people, because I know nobody really knows how to heal from this stuff. I don't know of too many people that have. So
Right. I mean, this is some pretty deep wounds that God only knows if they can be healed.
This could become
can we find that again? I'm sorry.
So you gotta be careful to
Say that again, Jacqueline.
Where can we find the podcast that she's just mentioning? I'm sorry.
Where she's going to be, it's upcoming one. We're doing it here. She had the idea for about a month ago. We did like a 6-hour podcast where she premiered what the graphic was going to be like. I'll send you the link. But
Okay.
do you want? You want to share? Do you have that up on hand, Angie? That graphic that you had for it?
I don't think so.
Okay. We'll show it next time. But yeah, no, it's really cool. It's really, really clever. You'll like it. You'll appreciate it. But I've been told to tell Angie, it's like, you should start doing that podcast. It'll be cathartic for you until you have your trial, and since it moved it to August, so might as well,
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's coming up, and so yeah, we'll have a pretty good lineup. We'll have Fridays, because we moved tips, techniques, and survival traits to Fridays since we resumed it a couple weeks ago. So that will be Fridays. Then we'll have a News for Us Fringe Division on Wednesdays, and then we'll have the Sundays Sacred Louisa podcast, of course. And then in between there, we'll have the box, right, Angie?
Yeah, the box.
Okay, cool. So we'll have that on the other days that we're not doing the broadcast otherwise. And then I think that would be a great lineup. We'll have something every day of the week for people. That would be awesome. But I know all you ladies must be looking forward to that, because that one's going to be for you all to like kind of like come together and like do your thing to heal, and talk about your trauma and whatever, and help each
We're
other.
gonna
That's
talk
gonna be
about all
great
kinds
forum.
of stuff.
I know.
Anything
But it's
from
going to be a great.
alchemy,
It's going to be a great.
history,
It's going to be a great little
one.
podcast. There's there's going to be a lot of good conversation going on in there for sure.
Yeah, it'd be such a wide variety of conversations.
Definitely. All right, everybody, it's been a great live. We appreciate you sticking in throughout the whole thing. And if you haven't subscribed to our pages or our channels, YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, Facebook, etc., then please do so. All the links are in the description. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Night.
Thank you.
Good night. Good
Oh,
night.
I'm sorry.
Good night.
Good night.